I did not. We'll call the October 9th meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Are they ready, Taxi?
Oh, I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First off, of business, we need approval of minutes for September 11th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, we have a lot of continuances. Certificate of Compliance, 242-1428, Turnpike Street, request to continue to October 23rd.
So moved.
Did they give us a reason?
They're still working on addressing my comments,
Okay,
but, yeah, so.
very good.
Cool.
Next one is 242-1720, Regency Place.
We received a request to withdraw that certificate of compliance request. The portion of the slope behind the pool is not yet stabilized, so they need to loam seed and put an erosion control blanket over that and allow that to grow. So we'll look at it next season, but it's a withdrawal at this point.
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1647, 172 Summer Street. Request to continue to October 23rd.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Let's go with the small projects. NECC 241-490 Winter Street.
Commission will recall that this project involves the demolition and filling in of an in-ground pool. Work is about 93 feet from the edge of wetland. At the last meeting, the commission asked for a narrative explaining construction access and intention to remove compost and yard waste within the 25-foot no disturb zone. The applicants had informed the commission they'd be on vacation this week, so they wouldn't be able to make it, but the commission said that as long as we get a narrative to this effect, that would be okay. So they will be accessing the area of work from the front of the house, down the driveway and the front of the house, which is out of the buffer. They have existing fencing that separates property boundaries. They will be removing the stockpiled, or the compost and yard waste from the no disturb zone, and they will either burn it or put it into the pool that's gonna get filled. So,
I did watch the video on that, I know that's his response to this. I cringed when I watched it. You cannot put compost in your backfill in your pool.
okay,
So we're not gonna let that happen,
okay,
all right?
yep,
Because I don't want it to happen.
okay. Okay, so it's, basically from there, it's, breaking up the existing concrete patio, putting it into the pool and, filling it and loaming and seeding it and replanting. I think they want to do some arborvitaes on the fence side. So Ben and I thought that this could come under L as other project, considering its distance to the wetland, but
Any other questions, Joe?
So we debated at the last meeting, it was not only being thought of as not a small project, it was actually even borderline RDA, because there were so many conditions, but because this is now part of the application, these are no longer conditions, these are now part of the record. I'm okay.
Al?
No questions at this time.
Okay, just to give you some history, I had issue with the construction access, where the septic system was. First it was on sewer, then it was on septic. It's right on the property line where the pool was being filled, and then like you were saying, that the compost was going to be filled. They didn't say what kind of filler we're using. Hopefully it's virgin fill, and like I said, it's right on the property line. But the commission that was here insisted let it go to be a small project pending, conditions. So that's how we left it.
So, Louis,
Yes.
the concrete's gonna be trucked off-site?
No, they want to put it in the pool.
That's what he just,
So they
that's what
wanna
he just
bury,
said in his-
they wanna bury concrete? So we're okay with burying concrete, but we're not okay with burying compost?
The compost is because it's organic,
And
what it's gonna do is it's gonna break
make a
down. I mean,
sinkhole.
it's gonna settle in, it's gonna sink. So it's not because of the quality of the material, it's what happens in 5, 6, 7 years when the backyard caves in.
Could have the same problem with concrete.
But you jet it in.
It's gonna do the same.
Fill in with time and sink.
History has taught us, anything that we bury is gonna eventually
Should be hauled off.
settle down. It should be taken off-site. Everything should go off-site. If we start making graveyards around here, there's gonna be sinkholes all over the place.
How close is the pool? It's within the 100, right? That's why they're
yeah,
here.
it's 93 feet, 95 feet.
So, I mean, just a consistency, right? We don't allow crushed concrete to come in as a aggregate borrow material.
Yeah.
Why should we allow it in this case?
I mean,
Well,
the-
historically, I think we've had other projects like this in front of us, and we've allowed people to bury the concrete in place, and I understand we've learned some things over the last year or less, and maybe we want to take a different position on it, but historically, my memory is that we have allowed that. We've never certainly done it under a small project, and, as Lou indicated, I may have also, I wasn't at the meeting apparently, I would have taken issue with the size of the work going on here, but it is 94 feet away, to keep that in mind. But I understand what you're saying about the concrete. Jumps out to me, too, as something we might want to take a position on.
I mean, I have no objection to any portion of the project at all, except for creating a graveyard for concrete or anything else. Stumps, I don't care what it is. Burying is just, it's a bad practice. It'll continue to settle for 30 years, and there'll be all kinds of things happening. I don't know, we should just reconsider that, I think.
One of my issues was it being so close to the property line also. So if we do have depression,
Yep,
we could affect
the name.
the abutter, because it is right on the property line. So it's
And
not,
as Sean said, we've learned a few things about burying, especially concrete.
Now, we have a matter of fairness to the applicant. The applicant informed us they were on vacation, wouldn't be here, thinking that this would be enough to document the need. If we were to close and impose conditions beyond what they think, we don't give an opportunity to hear it from our lips. But I think we probably should continue it till they get back.
I agree. If they can't be here, I would agree to continue it and give them a chance to respond.
all right, so we have a motion to continue. Do you have any more questions? All right, we have a motion to continue.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Okay, next one is NECC 242, 537 Osgood Street.
Boxford, right?
Box.
Boxford, I'm sorry, Boxford.
You're so close.
Yeah. I got Osgood Street on my mind.
So, we are representing Oxford. Why don't you come on up? We can have a seat. So, Field Inspector Ben went on site for a, was it a generator or a propane tank? Propane tank installation. For a building permit review, and found that there was a shed in the no disturb zone without Conservation Commission approval. Department staff issued enforcement letter. We identified an area for the shed to be moved to outside the 50-foot no-build, so we thought it would be reasonable to have the applicant come in under a small project permit for the small shed and move it out of the 50. So there's the shed now. And let's see here.
So the commission, I'm reading the back of it, Amy, and it says recommend granting a small project permit with the condition requiring post-construction inspection. That's not about the fence.
No, it's for
About
for
the
moving
shed.
the shed.
Okay.
So the fence is not part of this, but the fence is something that the applicant would like to talk to you about and just
Okay.
get your input on for a future filing.
All right, so right now, we're just talking about the shed.
Right, so we're just talking about the shed, moving it from here over to here out of the 50, and that's based on our measurements on site. So the yellow dot is its new location. And there is a very small plate structure that needs to come out of the 25 as well, but there's plenty of room in the yard for that, so. And that doesn't have any kind of surface underneath it, it's literally just, wooden footings on grass, so.
Doug?
So we thought that,
No questions?
Doug? Al?
I have no questions.
No questions. Sean?
No questions?
Doug? Okay. Motion?
I would move that we approve the small project as proposed.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous.
And I have this backwards. I would move that we consider this a small project under letter C.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. As far
I had a
as,
50-50 shot.
as far as the fence,
okay,
the fence can be put in the 50. Can. Can.
Can't be in the 25.
Can't be in the 25, but it can be in the 50,
Okay.
all right? So you're going to apply for an RDA. We probably should have the wetland delineated,
Okay.
so we know where the wetlands are, where the 25 is, and then you would put your fence where you want to put it.
Okay, so you think it's safe to say I can put it around the perimeter?
You can put it on the perimeter, as
Property.
long as it's in the 50, not in the 25.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it can be within 50, obviously, as well, right?
Right.
You just can't go within 25 feet of the wetland. Far out as you want, from 25
Right.
feet up.
All right, so from where the wetland starts has to be 25 feet
From the
there.
edge of, wetland, correct.
Okay,
And so that needs to get delineated by a wetland scientist.
Okay,
To
so-
get, because you really need to pinpoint.
So we know what
that.
the 25, 50, and 100 is.
But how is
Yes.
Basin 94?
So that, our measurement is, actually, this picture with this line, that's not our line. Our line is much closer to the edge of this dot.
Okay.
And so we measured from there, and so we're really, really liberal with
The shed.
that shed, yes. There's a lot of room for error on that measurement, so.
And they're in the room for error.
Do you have any questions?
I mean, far enough away, but not with the
We're offering
fence.
guidance. Why is this a foregone conclusion that it's an RDA and not another small project?
I'd ask the same question.
Oh, I don't know.
My thing is.
If he brings the fence forward and he's outside the 25 and it's just like hand-dug posts,
We don't know we don't know where the wetland is, or where the 25 is, or the
we
50.
don't on any small project.
No, but
Well,
I'm saying, that's why I asked for an
Yeah.
RDA, so we know where the wetlands are, where the fence is going to be.
Well, I think it's a discussion you can continue to have with staff. I mean, it may be barely an RDA.
Well, there may be other things that he wants to do with the property, which
Well, of course,
which
that
may
changes
or.
everything.
Well, which may be down the road.
Fence is
And
the fence,
maybe,
yeah.
and maybe once the wetlands get delineated, he'll have a better idea of where are the zones and where was he thinking to do other things.
Fair enough, fair enough.
So
There's other
I think
plans.
it's worthwhile.
It helps,
I
it's a
gotcha.
planning tool that can help him make other
Yes.
decisions.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
When you were out there, like this, looks like the wetlands start right at the edge of my property. So if I put a fence 25 feet in from that, essentially it's a fence going down like the middle of my yard. So, I can get the official delineation done, but I'm just concerned because I know that's also expensive. I called some of the consultants there. They charge, $500 to $800 to do surveying and delineation. So I just want to make sure I can go through that process. I just want to make sure that I'm not, if the fence is reasonable. After I do that, I'm just not sure if you guys can provide me guidance on that before I spend all that money through the delineation process.
Yeah, I guess the guidance is it has to be at least 25 feet away from the
Yeah.
wetland. and-
Okay.
And you can put in a reasonable household fence.
Okay. Are there any, is there any guidelines on the type of fence, chain link?
Nope.
No? Nothing
We
like
want
that?
Just-
resource areas out there, no rural pools, no
Yep.
migrating critters, we want to have an open bottom.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I think we should have, some
4 inches.
freeboard at the very bottom.
Get in and out.
Okay.
Even in our small project bylaw, there's a letter H for fences and stone walls which do not alter the flow of surface waters nor alter wildlife habitat or movement.
Okay. Okay. Would you guys ever consider, so I say I do the delineation and, they end up saying that I can't really put the fence at the edge of my property. Would you approve something like a post and rail fence? Like, to that go within the 25 feet or no? It's pretty set in stone? Okay.
Not speak for the project.
And the 25.
Yeah.
You put a post and rail just outside of the 25.
Okay.
The thing is,
Understood.
everything ends with a phrase, just outside.
Just,
Yeah.
I would have the
Not everything.
wetlands
Any
delineated,
structures can.
so that if you, in future reference, if you want to do something else,
Yep.
it's done.
Right.
yeah.
True.
Versus, we can't, we can send somebody out in the field and say, we think that's where it is, But unless it's certified stamped by a,
No, we don't want to get in that business.
we don't.
We're not in that
I
business.
know we
We're
don't.
not going to do that.
So that's
wanna
why,
give too much
no,
guidance.
sometimes we verify
But we should give
flags.
some guidance, I mean, so he gets his planning tool, but that RDA that defines where the line is, that tool that you might use
Yeah.
for other more ambitious designs later on, that line's only good for 3 years.
Okay,
So it's not like it's good forever.
No, no,
Yeah.
I know.
all right.
So if you don't plan on doing something for another 5 or 6 years, I don't see the need to do RDA now.
Okay,
If you can already estimate that it's going to be in a position where you don't want it, you know, if it's a difference of 3 to 5 feet, then obviously, like you said, you might not want to spend that money.
yeah, I'm in a little bind because I purchased the home last September. I wasn't, I don't believe that the previous homeowner did any kind of delineation. Wasn't aware of your regulations, so I called the fence company, put down a deposit. I'm not sure I can get it all back if I can't put a fence down. So again, just new homeowner, just not really knowing about the town and the regulations. So
Well, you
that's
don't
the only pickle I'm in. So,
Yep.
I can get it delineated, go through that process, and then, come back to you with a proposal.
And what's, if you don't mind me asking, do you have a pet or kids, or what's the
I
reason why?
have 2 young boys,
Yep.
and a dog.
Yep.
And my concerns are Boxford Street, it's a busy street, 35-mile-per-hour road, but, people go a lot faster. My house is set a little off the road, so that helps me a little bit. The perimeter of the property, a lot of poison ivy, and, obviously wildlife, coyotes and foxes we see on the regular. So, yeah, just, wife's a stay-at-home mom. She likes to let the boys out and, not have to worry too much about them darting off. So, that was really the whole idea behind it. But, yeah, that's where I'm at. But I can obviously go through the delineation process and talk to Amy and, come back in the future with a proposal. The fence company did say they would hold on to my project for a year, so at least I have time to figure this out.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Joe?
All set.
Yeah?
I'll see.
Deb?
All set.
Sean? All set? Motion?
We already voted the other, this was
Oh,
just
we did.
discussion on
That's what
guidance.
discussion, okay, I'm sorry.
This was the guidance.
This is the guidance.
You're all set,
All right, thank you.
thank
Thanks for
you.
coming in.
Thanks.
Another small project
No, I'll just send you the,
is number
sign permit.
244, 274
All right,
Chestnut
thank you.
Street.
274.
Want to do what, 274 Chestnut Street, Amy?
So this application is for 274 Chestnut Street. They're coming in under a G and H, which is pruning of existing vegetation and planting new vegetation and gardening, and H, fences and stone walls, which that do not alter flow of surface water or wildlife habitat or movement. Ben had conducted a site inspection, I think initially for tree removal.
Just for tree removal, yeah, until phased out,
Yep,
just trying to see if there's any
Sure.
discussion that needs to take place
yep.
prior to moving forward on any of it.
So there's 9 trees that are coming down, and
In the backyard and a few in the front, but the front ones in the front.
the
are
ones in the
outside.
buffer. And most of them are dead or dying or diseased. And it was very obvious to Ben when he did the site inspection that that's the case. So the green are the trees that are coming down. The orange are proposed replanting. And then there's an existing stone wall for part of the frontage along Sutton Hill Road, and the applicant wishes to extend it in the blue.
So I'm seeing most of the trees to be removed outside the 25, but I am seeing one that's...
There's one.
There's one back there,
Yeah.
and it's got about a half of the base left in it.
So what do we know about that, Amy?
Okay, so this, we have a picture of it. It's coming up, hopefully. Yep, so it's this one. So the base of it is rotted. And it's spindly and right there.
Okay, so it's already, even though it's in a, it's, very close to the wetland, it's already in an improved
It's
yard
in
area.
lawn.
In-lawn area.
It's in lawn.
So we'd allow it to come down, but they wouldn't excavate the stump, they could grind it flush for them.
Wouldn't even do that. If you look at the one right next to it in that picture, the stump is protruding out of the ground, so I wouldn't have to go through the ground.
So those are the other trees that are
I'm also.
pretty dead.
The diagram, right, the wall is going away from the
What?
existing wall ends and
What, and
the new one goes further
Running
away.
parallel with the road, not with the barrier, not with the brook,
Yep.
perpendicular to
Yeah,
the brook.
perpendicular.
No question?
No question.
I'll try it again.
All right.
I move that we consider this to be a small project in accordance with letters G and H.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. We're all set. Thank you.
I move that we approve the small
So,
project
I'm sorry.
as proposed.
Second.
And what is that, with what post-construction?
Do you want a post-construction inspection
Yeah.
to include a post-construction?
And you don't need to go back out there again before, right?
No. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. RDA 268 Raleigh Tavern, request to continue to 10/23.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Next to are both Columbia Gas, 633 Turnpike and 444 Osgood Street. Request to continue till when?
October
10/23.
23rd.
10/23.
So moved for both.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is NACC 240-505 Sutton Street.
All right, let me pull this up. Trying to find the plans here. Where are they? Here we go. Okay. All right, just want to pull up the plan. Okay. So since the last meeting, the planning board closed and approved the project. I conducted a site inspection with the wetland consultant and project engineer and butters. And we have the final revised plans here up on the screen. I'm going to ask the project engineer to just give us a briefing, and then I asked him to do a visual for pre- and post-watershed, so that we understand, where the water is going pre and post on a visual level, so.
Good evening, thank you for having us tonight. For the record, my name is Scott Cameron with the Moore and Cameron Group, 66 Elm Street in Danvers, Massachusetts. Here on behalf of Sutton Street Redevelopment. Thanks for having us tonight. I did bring with me, and I presented a little bit of this at the opening hearing, and we had a close look at it and spent a lot of time back in the area on the property. I know there's been some question about, what's going on with the grading along this back area, whereas the rest of the property is pretty distinct where everything's going. You have a very flat area through here. When we were doing our stormwater analysis, and I'll just pull up the existing conditions plan. This is the watershed plan that was in the drainage report. I just blew it up on this board. Really, there's 4 distinct watersheds that you can break out on this property. They go to different locations. The one really what we're talking about, this area is where the isolated wetland is, off-site with the buffer zone coming in. And this blue represents kind of the land that's immediately adjacent to that. Now, the design point that we modeled for this is actually, it's not a point, but it's more or less along this entire edge abutting the China Blossom Restaurant. And the reason for that is along this lot line, and it's subtle, but if you read the contours, no matter where you pick a point for a drop of water to fall on here, that water comes away from the lot line. Because you measure perpendicular to the next contour, is typically how you do it, and you come down. And you go through this, and and then you go out in the field and you take a close look at it, you can see why. It is very flat back there, there's trees, and it's lumpy in some areas, but the grade as you stand there, you can see it, it's subtle, but it does go either parallel or just away from the lot line, and all this comes down, and then what happens as you're, flip over here, what happens from there, this is just an aerial shot, so we're talking about this area, the water actually comes down, it goes in this direction on the parking lot, and at the end of the parking lot, there's another more defined ditch, and that goes down to Osgood Street. So that's where all the water's going. And it gets channelized as you get down here, and more so on that end of the parking lot. And that's where the water goes from here. Now, we're mindful that during the design, the peer reviewer that did the stormwater design for the project did ask us to take a close look at that. That correspondence back and forth does appear in the peer review comments. In the post condition, so this watershed area, let's say it's, in the drainage report, it's 42,000 square feet, about 43,000 square feet is the footprint of this area. None of that goes in this direction, it all goes towards the China Blossom property. In the post development, what we've done, same blue, and I've actually drawn the orange, just picking points and seeing where the water will go if we follow the contours. The footprint of this area is 23,000, so about half the footprint size, because we're taking a lot of it with the buildings, and we're bringing all that water in towards the stormwater management system, which is in the center part of the site. So we're taking all that water and bringing it in. And yeah, we're filling along this edge. Sure, we're raising the grade, especially on this side, along the China Blossom side. Some subtle grading down along this edge, but we very distinctly provided a swale. And again, because we're not touching anything between 20 feet here and about 13 feet down this end, we're not touching any of that. That's beyond the limit of work. There won't be any change to how the water flows. So water will come down. The only water that will get there is what falls between the edge of the building and the property line. And it's either going to come down and go this way, or it will land here and kind of come back this way, which is what it does now. So we did look at this thoroughly. I've spent a lot of time out there and numerous site visits. Different weather events. I've looked back through historic USGS maps to see how the land is kind of shaped over time. I feel really confident that we're not going to have any issues back there. And one of the last changes we did add to the plan, which is on the 829 set, you see that note right in the middle of the plan. It says existing berm to remain. That was something that the peer review consultant asked us to put on there just to memorialize that and let somebody look at the plan. All right, well, what does that mean? They're saying existing berm to remain. Either if they can't figure it out standing there, they're going to call me, or they're going to call Amy or somebody else. What is it? Probably me. And that's what that means, and we'll explain that.
So that addresses the abundant concern pretty well, and I understand, the satisfaction that might give people.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of lost me when we were talking about watersheds and what close to an acre becoming now half an acre.
Yep.
So by putting it into the system out in the parking lot, it's partially infiltration, mostly infiltration.
Mostly.
Until it gets overtaxed, over-demanded. At that point, it has an overflow structure, which goes out to Sutton Street drainage, from what I remember.
Correct.
Which are this is a divide, that's really two different watersheds, because Sutton Street goes down to the Merrimack River,
So
and this goes to Lake Achicole.
It's a tricky area. We've spent a lot of time out here standing around. The watersheds, this is the existing plan again, so that's the existing building on the property. So ES3 and ES4, those come down and go to Sutton Street and head off towards the Merrimack River.
Now,
ES1
and will in the future.
it will in the future, and ES1 and ES2 now all end up going towards Lake Cochicowick, which was actually back in 1893 was called Great Pond. I did go back in the maps quite a ways. So these go down to that system. Now, what we're designing for at the design points in both scenarios is making sure that we're reducing the peak rate of runoff, and in most cases, the volume as well. And we did also go through and inspect, because we're going to do a direct connection into this drain system. We did follow this system down. We got the town maps. We went down on the other side of Osgood Street, and we followed all the outfalls. We couldn't find the pipes. It was really thick growth, but no evidence of erosion, no evidence of issues. It looked like everything was very well stabilized with all the vegetation. And so this system is able to handle this because we're reducing the peak flow rate, and for most of the storm events, the volume as well. And yeah, we can change where this is going. We're taking a lot of the load off of the China Blossom side, so along this boundary, we're taking a lot of the water off of that. And the benefit really, this is a huge benefit. Again, all this water is going down to Lake Chickawick anyways, but right now, it all just runs across that parking lot. Untreated. And it's picking up everything in the parking lot, and that carries down to Osgood and overwhelms Osgood, and then that goes out. Where we did see erosion was at the catch basins on Osgood Street. You can see them. There's holes next to them. So that's telling me that there's a lot of surface water on Osgood, so let's get it off the street, get it in the pipes underneath, and it's out and gone. So that was a huge, we felt, benefit on that sideline. And the buildings themselves will pick up groundwater and anything else that may be coming out in that direction.
Okay, so I'm satisfied with the abutter concern, and I'm satisfied with the vision of watersheds on a nominal type of storm where the infiltration system is acting as infiltration. It's those peak storms. So the ultimate discharge, the back corner is going to go always just as we described, but only half the acreage, one half of an acre. And all of the other is, half of what's remaining goes out to Sutton Street and down to the west, eventually to Merrimack watershed. And I guess my concern is it on an overflow or would demand high rain event, what sort of mitigation are we getting going down to that ultimate discharge to the Lake Chickawick watershed?
All storm events, so up through the 100-year storm event.
You're controlling on-site, it's
Absolutely.
slowly discharging.
And slowly discharging. So yes, we're infiltrating always. It's always happening. Even in the big storms, yes, it fills up. And even on the small storms, we're still releasing small amounts of water. But we're replicating the recharge that happens on the property now just from how it is compared to how it will be. We're replicating that in increasing the ability of it to recharge. So right now, anything that falls in the front parking area of the building, that's all just going right off the property. We're holding 100% of it and giving almost 100% of the runoff from the site a chance to get into the ground. So we're really, making a great effort.
I apologize, it was a month ago. But in the area where you are doing recharge, infiltration, you've already done soil borings and...
Extensive, yep. And all those soil borings, they appear on sheet C7 in the plan set. They're actually deep excavation test holes, where we got in there with the excavator, opened up a test hole, pulled the profile, went down as deep as we could, measured groundwater, not standing water, but what we observed, evidence in the soil. So we're looking for staining, rusting of where the water fluctuates. It was very distinct through the whole property. It was about 3 feet down, very distinct, consistent. And it was
3 feet down from existing, so this is, you're going to be filling the
We'll be
site.
filling, yep.
I was like, you could need to be 2 feet above that, right?
Yep. Well, 2 feet to the bottom of the systems, and then you have the system, and then you have your road or whatever's above that. Actually, the drainage didn't drive the finished grade of the site. It was close, but what actually drove the finished grade of the site was the sewer. And the reason for this is because we did it first pass, we did it based on drainage. It's usually what's going to drive the grade. So we had groundwater come up 2 feet. We design our stormwater system. We do our pavement, and that's usually what's going to drive it. In this case, the site is pumped right now. So this goes to an ejector pump, and it pumps up to the system. We're right at the end of the gravity system here out in the street. But we were able to get a gravity sewer service from the property by lifting the site up just another foot. So it was only another foot higher, and we were able to get everything out by gravity, which is a huge benefit. Any pumps we can remove from the municipal system is a benefit. It's just the chemistry behind effluent. We want it to be exposed to air and gravity and not being artificially pumped. Yeah.
Okay, I'm all set.
Huh?
I'm all set now.
Yeah?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I saw the plan today, and I was expressing some concerns. My concerns are the abutters, because their yards are wet to begin with. I just did not want to see any more water. In your narrative, you mentioned at least 3 times that you were not going to let any water come off that site, that there is now, to make these people any wetter. The China Blossom side, it's some part, it's like a 10-foot fill.
Yeah, there is a fill slope on this edge.
Yeah.
You're right, but it's all been cut in and manipulated anyways, so we're, to me, walking through there, it's not stabilized. You can see erosion just happening now because we've just kind of cut and let to grow back. So this will be a secure, stabilized slope. And the important thing here is the stormwater that is eroding that slope now and going across the parking lot, we're taking that burden off of it. So this will be a better situation afterwards.
Now, the water you say is running through these properties and going out to 125, that's not going to happen anymore?
No, we're taking most of that burden off of the property. The only thing that will go this way is what lands between the building and the lot line. So just drops of water that fall in that area, 40 feet. It's a 40-foot width.
Okay. All right, just as long as you stay committed that none of the abutters are going to get the additional water, because you had an abutter here, and you did a site view with them.
Wasn't at the West meeting. Was that about a Saturday? You guys did the site visit. Were able to get on his property?
Not on it,
Right up next to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time right here.
Okay, one more question, and I know the senior citizen pot, is that going to affect the stormwater of your project, or are they going to do their own thing?
They got their own thing.
They got their own thing?
We worked closely with their engineer through the whole design process. The way we engineered it is there's a shared driveway here. The high point's right at the intersection. And we actually have ends up being a dead-end aisle here. We did put a landscape divide here to make sure that we have a distinct boundary between drainage systems. So they've got their design, they've got their maintenance plan, we've got our design, we've got our maintenance plan.
Oh, we haven't seen any of that yet. Well, because I was concerned, I saw no elevations, so.
On their side, yeah.
On their
We're,
side,
what
it's
this is
square.
showing is kind of how we're going to lead the edge. More than likely, they're going to be ahead of us in construction if things
Really?
proceed forward, yeah. Yeah, we expect so. There's a lot of buildings to design here,
Yeah.
So
Well,
we
it would
get
be
some-
nice if we saw something.
as far as,
Well, there's stormwater issues. What are they going to do with their water?
they're going out in the other direction, out to Sutton Street. All that stuff is on file with the planning department. I know they're not jurisdictional with this commission, but it's certainly all down there.
So it's not jurisdictional?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
it's not. No.
Right,
And they have a
that's fine.
combination, it's similar to this, they have a combination of subsurface, and I think they have some surface systems in there too, small rain gardens, I think.
Like I said, I just worry about the abutters because all that area, that whole area is wet. The park down the street is
Mhm.
wet.
That's what I'm remembering, that's why I asked about the borings, but yeah,
I
soils
know.
of the soils. I just remember that whole area being sopping wet as a kid.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and across the street's dry. Go figure. And that's in the watershed across the street. But, okay, Deb? Sean?
So the water's going underneath the parking lot?
Yes.
You have is there an existing subsurface system?
There's nothing there now, no. No.
And that's a separate landowner?
So what's going to happen, this shows it. Yeah, so they're actually donating this portion of the land here that is being given to the town, and then this will be leased back to the town, however they work those terms out for the parking. So that becomes the senior center area, and then that's the multifamily.
And the part that abuts the parking lot for China Blossom, I think you said, I thought you were referring to that part of the property when you said, right now it just sheet flows down and goes across
Yeah.
the street, and you see a lot of
There-
erosion there.
Yep.
Is that going to have a subsurface system underneath it, or it's not just going that way?
We're just not letting the water go that way
Gotcha.
for the most part.
Okay.
Yep. There are some catch basins there now, but they're old. There's 8-inch pipes, they're clogged, they're not doing much. So, they might get some of the small, like rain like tonight, they might be doing something, but anything of intensity that we really engineer for, it's going straight off the property.
Thanks.
You have a follow-up question? So we've talked an awful lot about the existing condition and the post-condition, but this site is, you might as well say, nearly 100% developed during construction. So I think your worst design event is in fact what you do with stormwater management during construction. So I really
Absolutely.
want to see a narrative on that, break it into, if you have phasing in mind, break it into phasing.
It won't be phased. So there's several measures. So this will fall under the EPA National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. That will all be in place. North Andover has the typical conditions, environmental monitoring, which will be on site.
Those are words. I'm looking at the practicality of undertaking all of this on a relatively flat site. It is great to break the site into watersheds and to capture it and to control it in the future. But the whole time it's under construction with, clearing and grubbing and grading and the weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks that all of that takes place before you dig into deep foundations. I mean, you know how construction works.
Yep.
You could easily have several months of vulnerability that is going to be very difficult.
We're, yeah, and so with the conditions of the soil on this site, and we do have our preliminary sediment and erosion control plan in the set, happy to provide the final SWIP that we register with the EPA, which would be during the construction documents period. But some of the areas, obviously, we highlighted this edge with the slope, very robust, double staked hay bale or heavy sock system with the silt fence. That will be an area. What is nice about this site is, for the most part, it's already all cleared. So we're not going to have that initial going through and clearing all the trees where you dig, the land just gets ground up at that point. No, we're going to be able to work and keep, whatever paved surfaces we can keep in place, we're going to keep them there. Whatever grass surfaces, actually, it's been all mulch since they've been staging for the Columbia Gas repair work. Whatever we can keep intact. I mean, this will be a site, we're very familiar with this type of soil condition, minimizing disturbed areas. We're doing another one with the same applicant in Newburyport right now, which is all clay, which is pretty much your worst type of soil to try to manage during construction. And, the only thing that's opened up on that site right now is the foundation. That's it. Pavement stayed, we pretty much kept that stabilized base on the rest of the 3-acre site, similar size. So I'm confident we can handle this one.
More questions? Motion? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead anyway.
No, just make
Oh,
sure.
abutters, we
public-
have any abutter
abutters.
input?
No questions from the abutters, or if there's any?
Amy, do you have any comments or concerns or questions from you?
No, because I was kind of looking for this presentation for the stormwater pre and post.
Okay. You satisfied with the calculations?
Yeah.
This-
Well,
this
Horsley
has-
Witten's satisfied.
Also, right?
Yes.
No, just figured.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So I did draft a decision in case the commission was interested in reviewing that tonight after closing, but
Move that we close and issue in 21 days?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one is 242-1768, 130 Ray Street.
I expected project engineer Ben Osgood to be here this evening for that. So we can table it. I don't know where he is, but
All right, then we'll table it.
I don't know.
Motion?
Motion to table.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1770, 456 Summer Street.
The commission will recall that this notice of intent is in response to an enforcement order issued for unauthorized tree removal. And it blossomed into proposal for a garage addition.
My name is Maureen Harold from Norris Environmental Services, here on behalf of the homeowner. We filed a notice of intent with the commission for the construction of a garage, extension of a driveway, resurfacing a portion of this driveway, as well as grading. In addition, I had the homeowner show in-ground pool that's located outside of the buffer zone, but just wanted to make the commission aware that this will be a future project at some point. I met Amy out on the site last week. We reviewed the wetland boundary, we walked the site. She provided some comments in regarding to fees. That additional fee has been paid. She requested information about the construction access route. We'll be accessing the site off of Summer Street. So this lot is kitty-cornered between Summer and Farnham Street. Stockpile location, that is not shown on the plan. However, that will be outside of the 100-foot buffer zone where the proposed pool is going to go.
Yep.
So it's actually shown on Amy's plan. I got it last minute, but it's not shown on the plan that you have. Amy requested erosion controls around the proposed pool. We provided that. We're proposing the work up to the 25-foot. If the commission recalls, this client received an enforcement order for tree removal. So we do have to pull these stumps, grade this area out, loam and seed it, and stabilize the area. The garage is proposed 51 feet away. Amy had thought perhaps maybe shifting the garage to provide a little room of error if there was one. My client decided to keep it at the 51 feet, so we will have that garage staked by a professional land surveyor so that we are at 51 feet. I did inform the homeowner if we're 49 feet, we'll be cutting an inch off, so she is aware of that. And I can open it up to the commission if you have any questions. Oh, we did receive a DEP file number. No comments.
Can you just expound on the comment about taking the stumps out and raking, grading? Is that, where is that? That's outside the 25, right?
That's correct. That's outside the 25-foot.
Okay. Were there any trees removed inside the 25?
No.
There were none, so they, just within resource area, but not within the no disturb?
Correct. So it was, the tree removal was within 100 feet. This lot was one of those lots where it just didn't show any wetland, any resource area, and they removed the trees, so.
One side of me says they would like to see some revegetation, but if they didn't disturb anything inside the 25, that might be a little unreasonable.
Okay.
But I'm open for ideas if they want to.
Yeah.
I'm all set.
So Ben and I did, well, Ben and I visited the site during the enforcement phase, and we poked around for soils, and I'm very comfortable with the line, as Maureen delineated it. I think it's right on, so it's right where we thought it would be.
construction access from Summer Street, I understand by the garage, they're gonna go between the garage and the back of the house to get to the pool?
So we discussed that on site with the homeowner. There's only 16 feet between the proposed house and the garage. So the access will be on the right-hand side of the dwelling or the southerly side of the dwelling and going around that area. That area is lawn, so we can have access that way. The homeowner is aware that if they decide to go Summer Street side, we need to come back to the commission. We need to do environmental monitoring.
Okay. Yeah, because twofold. It would be nice if we know what the construction access is to the pool. We would like to know where the stockpile is gonna be. That'll be outside the 100, right?
Yes,
Actually, the pool's out of the 100, correct?
yes. So
Yes.
the 100-foot's colored in yellow on your plan?
Okay. Okay. And they don't want to move the garage closer? Not even a foot?
No, they do not.
I know it's gonna be certified, correct?
Yes.
Right. So it'll be surveyed before they pour.
They're only
And
putting a
then-
slab.
Right. Pour the slab, and then we'll need a foundation as-built.
Okay,
That's
We
reasonable.
were
that's reasonable.
as
Oh, that's
clear as.
reasonable. If you get a
we could-
foundation as-built,
could be.
that's as cautious as you can be.
Yep. Okay. Deb? Sean?
Foundation as-built for,
Because they're only 1 foot off.
yeah, but it's just going to be a slab, isn't it?
They're gonna put a building on
Still,
top of it.
a slab gets a frost wall. They're gonna go down
Frost wall,
48
yeah.
inches.
Is there any, what's the existing conditions out there in the area of the wetlands? Is it vegetated? Is it cleared?
There was trees that were cut, but it's, there's some scrubby ground cover
Is there any proposed barrier at the 25-foot?
for erosion control.
No, for a permanent barrier?
Oh,
To separate the wetland from this new
No, I figured-
developed area?
I figured that would be a condition.
Okay. So that
We
is
would
something
require
I'm...
marking the no disturb zone.
No, I would say a 3-foot-high freestanding stone wall along the 25-foot. That whole area of the property now is being developed all the way up to exactly the 50-foot line. So I think we need to protect it. So I'm proposing that plus some markers.
Would the commission just consider markers within the 25-foot? This is an existing dwelling that was probably built in the 60s.
Not necessary. You can put boulders, large boulders.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, freestanding. That's what our typical detail that we use for all our walls, right? It's a
No, yeah,
freestanding.
but that's just,
That's a
you've
mason
got a
wall.
2-foot by 2-foot wall. We don't need that. We could have individual boulders, maybe 25, 30 feet between them. So you don't have, well, we have to have a mason, stone mason build it for you. That's expensive, and you're spending a lot of the applicant's money needlessly.
Thank you.
You could mark that line in many different ways, and one of them could be with large boulders.
Well, it's not from marking, from my perspective. It's a permanent barrier.
I
And if
understand what
those
you're
bou-
saying,
If I can finish, Doug.
but in the
If those
process,
boulders are
you're
there,
spending a lot of money on
those
the
boulders are
applicant's
there,
money.
they should be much closer together, almost touching to serve that barrier. So you can't go dumping stuff back there and it's set off.
There's no present dumping back there right
The
now.
area's not developed right now, is it? You're putting a garage there.
That's correct.
House already there.
The-
The house isn't near the wetland, though.
But the house was built in the 60s, 50s or 60s.
The garage is being built in 2019.
I understand, but we are complying with your setbacks. The commission requires a 50-foot structure setback.
Right. And the commission generally has a permanent barrier when there's new development near a wetland, whether it be a fence or a stone wall or otherwise. And my proposal was a stone wall. I mean, if there are other thoughts, I'm happy to hear them, but I'm pretty set in the fact there should be a permanent barrier there. And I'm
I-
sorry you disagree.
I don't have an objection with a permanent barrier. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't want to give you that impression. It's just to have a 2-foot, 3-foot-high stone wall that's 2 foot wide to go the entire length. It is quite pricey proposal. I'm more than happy to do boulders or plantings or the medallions that the commission typically requires. So I'm asking the commission to consider that as an alternative.
And what distance are we talking about?
I think you normally require 25 or
No,
30
no, I mean,
feet.
as far as the barrier from the boundary where wetlands go off property on both sides, what distance are we talking about?
I can do 25 feet.
No, no,
The-
is it a 100-foot-long area we're talking about? Is it
Oh, you mean
200
the
feet?
linear feet of
Yeah.
how long that would be?
It's over there. I'm looking at the scale and it's below. You want it at
About 120 feet.
The entire,
More than 100.
the entire 25-foot is vegetated, just so the commission knows. It's wooded, it's vegetated, it has not been cut.
I'm curious to see if my fingers have got fatter. They used to be exactly this.
Actually, I think you're right, it is 100 feet, because we needed that additional fee for the wetland boundary.
About 120?
No, Mr. McDonough makes a point of a permanent barrier. I would tend to agree with him because we started off with this thing as an after-the-fact
Enforcement order.
enforcement order. So, and then the reluctance of the applicant, which is their right, to put it right on the 50-foot slab, right on the 50-foot, caused concern. I think there is a potential of violating the 25. And we have required it.
So before we get into that kind of detail, there may be, not that I'm looking to throw a wrench in, but sometimes what you don't see in the plan is the question you need to ask. I don't know this part of town's utilities. This house is served on water, excuse me, on sewer?
This is on a septic system.
on a septic
And the septic system is in front of the house, Summer Street, where Amy's pointing on the plan. That's the leach field,
Between Summer Street and the driveway.
Up in that area?
yes.
So that whole construction access stockpile, that doesn't come into play at all?
No,
that
so the intent, the homeowner would like to construct the garage first. That's why I had thought to put the stockpile area behind the dwelling. That's all lawn area back there. And then eventually come in the following year with the pool.
Over the septic system.
No,
no.
no. The septic
Septic's in the
system
front, is what you said.
parallels Summer Street.
How are you gonna get back there?
So, for the pool, I
For the pool.
recommended coming out the south and west side of the house, around the opposite side of the house,
Between the
basically.
garage and the house?
No, opposite side of the house.
But it's just, you said the septic system's in the front.
No,
We see the
it's
gesturing on the
between the
screen.
driveway,
He's showing us
it's
on the
between the
screen.
driveway and Summer Street. Septic system is between driveway and Summer Street.
Okay.
So access for the pool around this way.
I thought you said it was the front of the house. I thought
Well,
that was the
Corner
front.
lot,
door, I
it's
guess.
right in the apex.
Yeah.
Both fronts.
yeah, at Farnham Street. Right.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to the permanent barrier. Do you want a permanent barrier?
I only interject with that because if there was a septic, this garage placement and how we get there may have been a factor to moving it.
Right. Okay. Rest of the commission, how they feel about a permanent barrier?
Well, I recognize it's an old house, but I also recognize that you don't have to build a garage at this time. In a sense, we're building the garage at this time. The bylaw comes into play, and we typically require a permanent physical barrier. What I'm hearing is there's no disagreement on that. The disagreement is what degree of permanence do we see versus what the applicant and the representative sees. We typically see it as a stone wall. I recognize the length of that stone wall. If it goes along the entire 25, it's almost as valuable as the garage itself.
If you build a 2-foot 2-foot high by 2-foot wide.
By what we would typically
Stone
require.
masonry wall.
It's almost
Not
as expensive.
masonry.
That's to do it.
It's not masonry.
It is, stone mason has to build it. Now, you could put a farmer's wall in,
Right.
what's called a farmer's wall, which is not 2-foot by 2-foot even, it's stones piled up.
Sure, yeah, that's what our detail is.
Right.
You know,
It's
you could
exactly
do
that.
something like that, or you could put large stones that could be, you know, a few feet apart.
So I'm looking at
Just-
a loose, dry-laid stone wall, farmer's wall is a great phrase. That's what I would typically
That's
think
what
we
I
would
was referring
require.
to.
That's what we always require.
always require.
There's
Never
never
been a
been,
masonry
there's never been
wall.
a masonry wall. There has never
There
been
have
one,
been some applicants who come in and
There have
propose
been-
that, and there have been some who built
but
those.
not by us.
We haven't
Not by
required it.
us. We always, when we require a wall, it's
My
a
sense
dry
is this
set
commission would
farmer's
like
wall.
the 2-foot by 2-foot.
It's a very loosely described 2 by 2 Doug.
Doug, you weren't around when we had to come up with the definition. It was because there were some people who thought that Riverstone,
Keystone.
Riverstone,
We got hit with-
strung out along the line, equaled a stone wall.
We got hit with 300 feet of pea
And
stone.
we didn't define what a stone wall was, and we kind of had to eat a little
We didn't
crow.
have a definition, so we had no way to, he was technically in compliance, even though it was ultimately the most contemptuous thing I've ever seen.
During the compliance site walk, a 4-year-old kid picked up a handful of the wall and threw it at a frog. How's that?
So that's all true, that's got nothing to do with this applicant. This applicant is concerned about the cost of the wall. I think we could all agree that the dry set stone wall is what we're all talking about.
Yeah.
The farmer's wall, Doug calls it a farmer's wall, okay.
Farmer's
Call it a farmer's
wall
wall.
has no cross-section to
No.
it, other than stones piled up.
No objection, but it has some shape to it, no
Can't
objection.
draw it, but you can build it.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, you walk over and dump the stones,
There's no-
like the
no con-
farmers
no
used to do.
concrete involved at all.
Okay.
Okay, so we're in agreement with what it is, and we
Everybody-
think,
everybody
well,
knows
it
what-
seems to be a
everybody knows.
consensus, that's what we're looking for.
Everybody knows what it is.
Would the commission consider a post and rail fence?
No,
No?
no.
We've had very bad experience with post and rail fences. The average 12-year-old can take them down in about
It's
an hour.
not maintained.
And this is nothing new from us. I mean, this is,
No,
this is what we
And you
do
know,
I-
typically, and we've seen you here
I,
before.
I understand, and I don't disagree with marking the 25-foot. It's just that it does become a significant expense to construct a wall. So I was just looking at some possible alternatives to throw it out there to the commission. Obviously, my client recently purchased this home, wasn't aware of any of the bylaws, the wetland regulations in town, wants to, you know, better the property, enjoy it. So
Everybody does that comes in front of us.
I understand, I'm trying to save my
How
clients.
vegetated is the 25-foot line?
It's completely wooded.
Wooded with trees and
Wooded
bushes
and
and stuff like
trees
that?
and
Now,
shrubs.
We don't want to go in there and cut down all these trees to put a wall in. I don't think we want to do
I
that.
don't think we would propose that, Doug. I don't think we would propose
No,
cutting trees.
but if you
That's-
want to put it
that's
along
beyond
the
the trees that have
25
already
line,
been
it
cut?
sounds to me like that's what's going to happen.
No, but I understand. We've never asked anybody to cut down trees to put a wall up.
Not tonight.
We haven't done, we haven't done.
someone up.
Yeah. You know what, Maureen, we just don't see a tree line at the 25.
I can add a tree line to the 25. That's not a problem. It's wooded. Amy's been out there, Ben's been out there.
Yeah.
It's completely wooded.
Yeah, I got it. No, but I guess with us looking at it here,
No, it doesn't show it at all.
It doesn't, and it wasn't picked up by the surveyor. I asked him to put it on the plan.
I got
It was
you.
just,
how far into the trees come from the 25 to the 50? Where is your tree line?
it's approximately around the 25-foot.
It meanders plus or minus? yeah,
It does,
yeah.
yes.
So we can avoid trees
So they can,
without loss of yard.
yeah. I think they could avoid trees too, I do.
Yeah, they don't have to put the wall at the 25, anywhere between the 25 and the 50. Right?
Yes,
Could be between the 25 and 50.
yes,
Yeah.
If you want to protect the wetlands, get it closer to the 50.
As close as they can to the 25, but if they can't get, if the tree line is in the 25, they can come on the outside of the tree line. Right?
You don't have any pictures of the site, do you?
Okay?
No, unfortunately, I don't
All
have
right,
any
so-
pictures. I didn't think it was necessary.
Would you want to, well, it's evident that the commission wants a loose wall. You don't want to give us this loose wall because you say the tree line is there, which we don't have any indication that the tree line is there. So do you want to continue?
Well, Amy can substantiate the tree line. Ben can substantiate the tree line. I can continue it, I can show the tree line if the commission is willing to consider an alternative permanent marker for the
No,
25-foot.
We're just going to try and define where the walls are going to go. We can condition it so that the wall goes between the 25 and the 50.
Yep, it's close to 25, you want to get it without going
I don't
inside
think we need to be
25.
that specific. We want a physical barrier, the permanent physical barrier which we've defined.
Yeah.
And if it's the applicant's desire to not cut any more trees, we support that. You can go up to 25, but no closer. And if it's further away, we're okay with that too.
Just so
We just said we want a physical barrier, no closer than the 25-foot, no disturb. Even if it meanders and it stays away from it further, they don't just show that on the plan. Go closer, the decision will say that, no closer there. And that way they can in the field, whether it's Amy or the contractor or the stonemason, farmer, stonemason, who does it as you can avoid the trees. You make that decision as long as you're not getting any closer to avoid a tree.
So we don't want it on the plan?
I think we said we show that there is a physical barrier on this, we want that on the plan. The exact location is gonna be stated to some effect in the orders of conditions.
Behind the dwelling is lawn, where the pool is,
Yeah, it seems to
where
be
the shed
plan
is to the
showing where
right-hand side.
Tree line is.
I understand, I tried to get it on the plan and it wasn't picked up when the surveyor was out there.
The wetlands go beyond the property line. So what we want is their property line.
Just, yeah, obviously.
Yeah,
Right.
but I don't think there's any need to remove any more trees for
No, we're not,
anything that's going to go on from here on out.
we're not asking.
Okay.
We're not
I don't think there, I mean, I don't think there's a need to.
Well, based what
to
you
disturb any more
saw,
vegetation.
can they put a stone wall between it, somewhere between the 25
The
and the
stone
50?
wall is gonna meander, it's not gonna be a static line.
Right.
Yeah,
It's-
it'll
stone
it'll
walls
curve.
move.
But they
May I
can't-
ask a question on the stone wall? Is the height requirement 2 feet high?
2 feet high, 2
Plus or-
feet
plus or
wide.
minus.
2
Plus
feet?
or minus.
Plus or minus. It's a,
Roughly.
you know those stone walls you see?
I've seen the beautiful stone walls off of Berry Road, so that's what I have in my brain, of what the
No,
commission is
they got carried
requiring.
away. Those
I got a
people
not
on
so
Berry
beautiful
Street
stone
got
wall in
carried
front of my
away.
house, and it's roughly 2 sort of.
Okay.
You've driven along the woods, you've seen farmers' walls all
It's just,
all
yeah, the
over
old farmers'
place.
walls that were dug out 150 years
The
ago.
ones on Berry Street, they did get carried away.
They're beautiful.
They are, they're very nice.
Yeah, we're not looking for anything, we're not looking for any Victorian walls.
The Compass Point did it and built a pretty nice wall, and one of the houses next to.
Someone asked the question, are we ready to close an issue, or do we
I
need to?
actually just thought of one question.
Berry Street, yeah.
So the new roof surface for the garage, how would we manage that? Because I don't think we'd want gutters shooting off. We could do like a stone drip edge or something like that.
You're looking to infiltrate for it? We can put an infiltration trench around it
Yeah.
if you didn't want.
I don't want gutters, because I can just see gutters shooting off and causing erosion. So, I don't know if the commission feels strongly about that, but
The other thing
You know,
probably
it's a good
wanna
size.
show, that dashed green line is up the corner. Is that where you intend to marry the pavement together?
Yes.
The
yes.
dashed green line? Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
so
I
the-
didn't see that at first.
So the existing driveway needs attention, so that would get repaved. The whole driveway would get repaved, and this new lip would, to meet the garage, would be installed.
Looking at this plan,
And the repave is just an overlay of what's there? Are they gonna rip out what's there?
I don't know.
I think they might
It's all
have
in
to
the
rip it
We
out.
need to know.
you got some serious fill around the garage.
Yes, because it's an existing, it's almost like a hole there, so they will be bringing in some
So
fill.
you're gonna be grading into the 50.
Yes, that's correct.
Because on on that corner.
Yeah, a little bit.
In question, it's almost 5 feet fill. So if you do 2 to 1, you're gonna be 10 feet into the 50 with
Okay.
fill.
That is not what he's proposing to do.
No, no, no.
Huh?
The
He's gonna have
red,
a high wall. He's gonna, so this frost wall that we talked about earlier, being a slab,
It's not.
5 feet? No, that's a high wall in the back.
Yeah,
If
it
the
is.
slab is at 46 and his back corner is
It's
42, he's gonna have 4 feet of exposed concrete
concrete.
before you get to existing grade in the backyard.
Yeah?
That's why he's able to chase the slope up, because he's using the garage as a retaining wall. The back wall and the side wall of the garage is a retaining wall.
So you're saying,
fine.
it's fine, so he's not gonna slope?
Very gradual.
Well, the existing is 40 feet, 9 inches. The existing subgrade is 43 feet.
Can you view the plan? So, on the Summer Street side,
Summer Street side,
you
it
see
looks,
with the spider legs coming up? He's got 46 coming into the corner, he's got 44 coming mid-wall, 42 to the back corner, and then 40 is where he's matching existing out there in the dash line. That means that whole wall, even if the slab's at 46, that back corner is gonna have 4 feet of exposed concrete, which is fine. But that's how he's making the grade work.
okay. Yeah, because the back of the garage is 42.
What you are gonna get is the rain. I imagine this garage roof slopes front to back, just given the layout of it. So that front half of the roof will be coming to the driveway, and the driveway will either drain directly to Summer Street, which won't be allowed by the town. So that runoff from the garage and the driveway will all be going directly to that corner of the wetland. There's some work that needs to be done in this plan. I think we continue it, and they go back and they address drainage, they address what they're gonna do to rebuild the driveway, if that's what they're proposing to do. I think collecting roof runoff into an infiltrator is a piece of it, but the driveway is a second piece, so you gotta control that as well. And I think there just needs to be more thought into it before we require the wall, because that's a requirement anyway. That seems to be the least of our concerns right now.
Cost-wise, if they turn the garage so that it ran parallel to Summer Street, they could put a driveway there and eliminate that long driveway they have now. No? And we allow driveways in the 50. Don't you think that would work better?
They must have gotten to some point where they made the decision to orient it the way they did. I'm not gonna second guess that.
Right.
But because they made the decision, there are some things that need to be shown on this plan to get built.
So you're concerned about the roof runoff from the garage, the existing or the proposed square footage of additional pavement. I mean, right now, where that driveway is coming off of Summer Street, the runoff flows down the driveway that way right now.
You just steepen that slope at the top by an additional 2 feet. You made that slope steeper.
Right.
But just by looking at the topo grades, he's super elevating the roadway, so it all drains towards the other direction, towards the wetland. He's got to capture that and treat it and do something with it.
We can do an infiltration trench around that. That's not a problem. I can come back with that information.
roof runoff, infiltrate. We're creating a steeper driveway, so you want that to be addressed?
Well, he has to capture the water. and
From
put
the
it-
driveway as
Put it
well.
put it somewhere and handle it.
Okay,
So
so,
it may be the same infiltrator, but you have to do something with it and show
okay.
it. Then we also want to see, since anything that's within this 100-foot, we need to know what he's proposing for the driveway. Now, he may just overlay everything that's there, but if it's falling apart,
Yeah.
they're probably going to rip it out and
I think they're
reground
going to
it.
rip it out, because
So we
right
need
now
to-
it's in rough shape, and they're going to have to get machinery through Summer, the Summer
Because
Street
this has-
driveway.
Only because now it's discussed, is it now part of the hearing, but the record needs to show on this plan that that's what you're proposing
That's
to
what
do,
we-
existing bituminous driveway to be reconstructed.
It's in the notice of intent, but I can have it added to the plan. That's not a problem.
In this wall close to the 25 line, you probably ought to show where the lawn ends and where the tree line runs and stuff like that, so where it's
Okay.
going.
Okay.
I don't like design projects, Maureen, but if you look and you turn that garage toward, parallel to Summer Street, you come on, it's half the driveway, especially when they're gonna tear up the other one. It's half the driveway.
I can look into that. I think the intent was to line the garage with the existing house. So when you pull in off of Summer Street, we're not adding that much pavement. I think that was the intent, but I can certainly take a look at that suggestion.
Turn it facing, just a suggestion, turn it toward Summer Street, and then put an exit door on the side of the garage to access that into the house. You're not gonna go through the garage door.
In a sense, too, you could probably do, the existing driveway, which is here, you could probably do away with. You wouldn't need. If you're coming off this way with it, you
Right.
don't need this driveway, you could do
Exactly.
away with it, save some
Exactly.
money.
And
Make
she
that
says they're
long.
gonna rebuild the driveway to begin with.
You wouldn't have to
Gotta the
rebuild it,
drive-
yeah,
You wouldn't need it,
that's right.
yeah.
You're talking about eliminating the Summer Street driveway?
The farm,
Yeah, you wouldn't
Summer
need
Farm
it.
Street,
I
take it right
mean,
out.
It's,
Turn the garage so it's facing Summer Street.
now we're
Put an exit door on the side of the building to access to
well,
itself to the house.
Now we're redesigning
Ideas.
the project for them, so, well, now we're redesigning the
I know, we're not
project.
designing it, but I'm just trying to be cost effective and
like build a wall.
eliminate.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, I made it
All
up.
right, so are
All
we
right.
clear on what
didn't
needs to
kick
get
me.
added to the plan?
Yes.
How come you didn't kick me?
So if I could continue for 2 weeks, I
2
think I
weeks?
can have
Okay.
this information.
Would you like 2 weeks?
Please.
Motion to continue. So moved. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
That's unanimous. 4 weeks. Next one is 1769 Dogwood Circle condominium, otherwise known as the Massetti Meadows or the Massetti property.
Okay. Okay.
Because I didn't know where Dogwood Circle was either.
I think I knew it, but I forgot.
Did?
I think I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Very familiar with that project.
Did they ever finally get a certificate of compliance?
Yes, they did. Took a while.
8 years.
No, we just needed an as-built that nobody wanted to give us.
I conducted a site inspection with Greg Hockmith, the wetland consultant for the project. Found the wetland line to be reasonable, observed site conditions, and I provided some initial comments, which they responded to for the most part. So I'm going to hand it over to Williams and Spragis. Mr. Williams.
Good evening. My name's Rich Williams with Williams and Spragis. We're the design engineer, and we also did the wetland flagging for the project. The reason that we're here is, and I don't know, does everyone know where this building is in general? The reason that we're here is that behind these condominium units where the rear yards were constructed, there are areas that go from patio to lawn area. Then there's a fence and some retaining mechanism, whether it be a boulder wall or a sloped area. And what's happening is that the area at the edge of the lawn, over time, the material is being lost. It's eroding, and you can see it when you look out there. There's a chain link fence, and the fence over time is sticking up in the air further and further. What we're trying to do with this proposal is to stop that from happening and to provide a solution, a permanent solution, in the most economical manner to fix that problem. So the solution that we came up with was to design a segmental block wall and basically build that at the top of the slope, dig it in enough so that we can hold it on the low side and be able to provide a flat area at the edge of that yard. We're not trying to capture any more of the yard. In fact, in most cases, we lose a little bit of usable space there. However, when I say usable space, of disturbed space, where the fence is now to the top of the slope they try and maintain it as a lawn, but it has been eroding, and it's really not usable because it's treacherous at that edge. The intention is to put the fence back, the fence that's there, generally in the same spot. And again, we would not be proposing to capture any more of the yard. This wall would be not the small blocks, but the bigger blocks, and that enables us to construct it without geogrid, so we don't have to dig back so far and disturb the patios that are there, and be able to actually, do the project without making a huge mess. The access for the project would occur between the two buildings. There is, the parking lot's out here. There is access between those two buildings. It would be done with smaller equipment like skid steer or a very small excavator. And expect that it would take, 3 weeks is my guess, to complete the project. We'd come in and basically work from the most remote area, work our way out, pull the material out, cast it to the side, put the wall in, and then backfill, loam and seed. And the reason that we didn't just build on top of that, the existing boulder walls, is because we don't know what the stability of that wall would be if we picked it up. So we don't want to design something that would be unstable. So we pulled the wall back far enough so that it won't have an impact on the stability of the wall, but we'd still be able to fix the issue. We've got sedimentation control proposed at the base of the work, which is silt fence and mulch stock combined, and I think that's it. Any questions?
Just want to be clear, so the existing rubble wall that's there, you intend to just leave in place?
We're going to leave it.
Everything
It
built
has to
up.
be stable. I looked at it from a stability standpoint. It doesn't appear to be failing. The issue is that that wall is there, and then they built dirt up like that.
All the fines of working
So
through.
the top is pulling off.
So, the typical wall cross-section is just that, it's typical. Got a drainage interlayer where you're intercepting any water moving through the horizon. You got a drainage tile at the bottom, or near the bottom of that. How does that, does that daylight anywhere? Are you in this?
Yeah, we daylight at the end of the wall. In this case, because the wall is short, we can just pull it down to the end and pull it out. We may, if there's not a good location to go out at the end, we might pull it out in the middle, like on this wall. The boulder wall is behind it, so we might find, because you can notch that block out and pull out.
That's actually what I'm looking for, is to minimize the number of could become point sources. So if you had a number of weeps on a periodic basis, then it performs the same function.
Right, the most would be 2 on each, because it would be at the ends.
The most or the least there would be.
The most would be 2 each.
Okay.
Which I'm guessing will be right around six outlets. I don't expect that there's going to be much
highest-
flow from that, because the watershed is so small.
So the highest, this is 5 feet.
Correct.
Typically, it's closer to
It's typically,
3,
it's closer to 2.5, like I'd say the average is about 2.5 feet. It's
So
not very tall.
relative to we're not anywhere near the bottom foundation elevation of the buildings.
No,
So we're gonna be above that. So we're not gonna be picking up a whole heck of a lot of groundwater in here.
correct.
All right, I'm all set.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Question, is there a break in the wall up there, up above? I don't have my packet with me, so I'm just going by
A regular wall?
the wall you're building. Is there a break there?
I think are there 3 walls?
Yeah, there are there are breaks in the wall. This is a piece of rock,
Okay.
so we're gonna go on either side of that. And then in this location, we don't need to put a wall there, because there's not an issue here.
Okay. That's what I was that's why I was asking. Okay, I don't have any questions.
No question.
Motion? Oh, but we haven't,
Well, I want to see if Amy,
So your narrative says that the trench or the excavation width would be, what is it, 2 to 3 feet wide? Is that right? It sounds like you
The blocks
you
are
need
2,
long.
it's 2 plus a foot, so it would be probably 3.5 feet is what the width would
Okay.
need to be.
Okay, and then how far down again?
Well, it
Depth-
varies based on the height of the wall, but it's from the low side, we're only going to be down about 9 inches from the downside. The upside, it depends on the height of the wall. There are places that it'll be a 5-foot excavation, and then places where it'll be 2.
I gotcha, okay. All right, and then, so the base won't be crushed?
It will not, it's going to be crushed stone.
Concrete.
It will, the manufacturer allows 2 different, or suggests 2 different types of bases, either lean concrete or crushed stone. And we're going to use crushed stone, and we'll agree to that.
Okay, so then you can open it up to the public.
do you have any butters input here?
Any butters have questions?
any abutters who want to
Yeah,
be
you have
heard,
any
have any comments or
questions?
concerns? Anybody at
Well,
all?
I'm concerned about the concrete and the crushed stone.
Would you,
We have your name and address?
1804 Dogwood Circle.
Wants to know why you're using crushed stone or not cement?
Typically, we use crushed stone. Almost every wall of this type the base is crushed stone. They allow, in certain situations, concrete. What that does is you can form it exactly to the shape of the bottom of the wall. But in this case, we don't need to do that, and it's much easier to bring in crushed stone than it is to pour concrete. So,
crushed stone is better.
Excuse me, I need to throw my hand in front of you, jump out. The wall comes behind this building, this 1800
Yeah.
building, where you're going to access between the 2 buildings, one that's kind of,
Yeah.
This way?
yes.
Is any of that retaining wall going to go past, because that's like building 20, and it appears,
It goes down to about the corner,
Okay.
this corner where the building returns, because there was an issue identified at that location as
yeah,
well.
it looked like it's been sloping
Yes.
since I moved in there, so I didn't know if it was only behind the 1800
No, it is
building.
extending out to that corner.
Okay.
That's the area, we walked out there and identified where we thought there needed to be improvements, and that's how we picked it.
Okay.
Just for my own clarity, so we understand ownership and title out here. you folks are individual condo owners, and the association owns all of the real estate around it. It's the association who's applying here, right?
Correct.
That's your client?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know.
We own townhouses on that.
So what I don't know is, we're going to be issuing a decision that's binding upon the association, which in essence binds your properties as well. But you guys are going to have to work that out with management. But what they're proposing is fine from a conservation perspective, it's fine from an engineering perspective. What I don't know is how it is for your quality of life, other than what they're proposing is good.
It's fine for us. It's good for us.
I think it's good.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know what that term was, bind.
Back when somebody outside my
We have to
kitchen
do
window.
it. Yeah, we have to put up with it if they agree to it.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, we want it. Yeah, we want
Okay,
it.
okay, okay. I just didn't understand the term.
I just want to make sure if there wasn't one, there should be one.
It's very dangerous right now.
We want to know that the residents are happy with the.
Oh, yeah, we're happy.
Yeah, we want it done, is what we want, yeah.
All right, thank you.
We need it.
Yeah. Yes.
My friend's golden retriever actually slid underneath the fence as the, oh, yeah,
see, that's kind of stuff
twice,
you
and
wanna
that's a
stop.
big dog.
Yeah.
She went over on her back to scratch, and she rolled down the
The
hill.
landscaper's truck fell under the fence.
Actually, someone got seriously hurt.
Can we get your name and address?
I'm 2003 Dogwood. My name's Maureen.
So, you ready to close?
Yeah.
I'll move that we close and issue in 21 days.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Awesome.
Well set.
Thank you very much.
Well set. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.
So they came in with the notice of intent as the commission required. They could vote to lift the enforcement order.
So they're under the NOI
All
now.
right, yep,
NOI now.
right,
So we can rescind the enforcement?
yep,
I take no action on the enforcement
Yeah.
until we close the hearing.
okay,
I agree.
Okay.
Take no action at all.
Okay, then we're not.
that's true, all right.
just let it
Thank
ride.
you.
Okay. The other one is 537 Boxford Street.
So this one, I think you can vote to rescind because they came in with the small project permit to move the shed.
So, yeah, this is one in the future's gonna look
Or
for the
wait
fence.
till they move it?
Well, I mean, they came in with a small project that satisfies the violation.
Yeah,
So do you want to wait till they complete it?
Yeah,
What's the?
if you want to. I mean, you can.
What
Well,
are,
that
doesn't
one, we
matter.
close the order, that, he's going to be,
What were we enforcing? To come in front of us with a plan or to move the shed?
To move the shed.
both.
Well,
Both, I
If
guess.
it's both, then you can't close it because the
Right.
shed hasn't been moved. If it's
You're
to
right.
to come in front of us with a plan, then he's
Okay,
satisfied that.
Gotcha.
so we let that one ride too?
Okay, never mind.
Right.
Ride, let it ride.
Okay.
44 Orchard Ave is an interesting.
Okay. 44 Autran, okay. All right, so
I have
The-
an enforcement letter here.
community development received, a building permit for a deck at the rear of 44 Autran. I had submitted comments on that application that there's an intermittent stream behind the house and that the deck would need a permit with the Conservation Commission. So it was basically placed on hold, and I was waiting to hear back from the contractor. One of the building inspectors driving by noticed new wood at the rear of this unit. Ben, our field inspector, did a site inspection and found that a brand-new deck was constructed without a building permit in place or finally signed off or Conservation Commission approval. So we issued an enforcement letter and asked for the owners to come in. I know. And, in conversation with Ben, the homeowners are pretty much mortified, and from what we understand, that the contractor did this without their knowledge. They thought the contractor obtained the proper permits, and but he did not.
Okay.
But he did not.
Hope he has a license that he won't have anymore.
I don't know, but you found him through Home Depot, is that correct?
Through Lowe's.
For Lowe's.
So we have a signed contract stating that dedicated project support staff will be in contact with us every step of the way. However, they didn't tell us that you wrote comments and that we needed to come and see you.
Okay.
We knew nothing about this till we got this letter. And we're absolutely
Mortified.
sorry and mortified. There was an existing deck, we were redoing the deck, the permits and everything, it says removal of existing deck. Yep.
Yes, yes.
And I can give this to you. It states all, our permits are required, yes. Huh? And,
I think Lowe's is going to fix your problem.
so, anyway, they're gonna get the permits and everything, and the permit cost is on here. We paid for everything. So, this is news to us.
Yeah.
And I have, we're new homeowners, I have a text with them stating, we've never built a deck before. Do we need to sign off on anything for the permit? Do we need to get anything inspected? Please let us know. Nope, you're all set, enjoy the deck. So
Let's simplify.
we're like,
You're a victim, right?
how do we
So
fix
you're a victim,
this?
and we're, as much as we're an enforcement arm, we're on your side. So what you have to do is you have to have a deck that complies with our rules and regulations. And is it way off? Is it impossible to comply? Or
I heard the word existing, there was an existing deck? There wasn't.
Yeah.
What was the size of it compared to what's there now?
It was bigger.
The other one was bigger?
Yeah, so the plans that we have for, on the town, it's a duplex property, so they're split. What we have here was the plans that are in the deed that we got, and we have a side deck on the side of the house, and then there was a rear deck in the back of the house. On this plan, it looked like it says one-story WF, I don't know. But there was a structure there, and so, this 50-foot no-build zone doesn't make sense to us because I think from our house to the stream that's in the back is about 50 feet. So the whole street.
these houses on Autun were built way before the 50-foot no-build came into
Okay,
effect.
because the
So
whole
I think
street.
that's exactly where you're going. Pre-existing non-conforming might be okay.
So the deck that was there, was it in the same locate, you said it was bigger, was it in the same location where
Yep.
the sliding glass door is that
Yep.
we see on this photograph?
Yep.
That's right,
Yeah, so what happened is on the contract here, we did a 15 by 13 deck
Yeah.
and with stairs. And so you can see there's a partition, there's like the fence in between. That was there before.
Yeah.
So we measured from the front of that to the other railing, 15, and we thought that was what we needed to do.
So from,
The builder.
from here to there?
Yep, and so the builder, like the Lowe's or whatever, had said that, the existing deck is 16 feet wide, because we weren't accounting for, like, where the post was, like, behind where the partition was. So they said, in the order, there's 16-foot wood planks. We could use those and just make it so it's like the same size, the width as the existing deck. And then we just made it 14 feet instead of 13 feet. And again, that was one piece of wood that they had. So we edited, if you will, the plan, and so that was okay. And when I looked, after we got this letter, I looked to try to see, like, was a permit, was something started, because all I can see on my end was that something was put in, and then the plan, like, with my phone number and everything, the plan was drawn out there, so, yeah.
So all the wood that's out there, I mean, even the sonotubes, I imagine, that's all new, correct? Is there anything that was
They
pre-existing?
didn't do sonotubes, they did the diamond piers.
Okay.
So, it's
It's all new.
pressure-treated wood, yeah.
Even the wood that I see on the very bottom underneath there, I thought, maybe I heard you say they
Yep.
reused something, but that's all.
No, so in the order, they said that they had 16-foot wide pieces, and so they're like, do you want to just do it 16 feet, like how it was before, instead of us cutting it, like
Yeah.
you would get a little extra space, and we're like, sure, that's great. And they had an extra piece to make it 14 feet, and so it was just a little,
Yep.
it was like existing in the order, we weren't gonna have to like reorder wood and get more.
And what's on the other side of that partition, the fence? Another deck?
That's our neighbor's deck.
The
And-
neighbor.
Yep, and it looks to be about the same size as yours.
Yep.
Is it further away from the wetland?
They're both the same.
So straight.
So was your old deck identical to the deck that we see on the other side of the petition?
The old deck was longer, it was more like 19 feet as opposed to 14 feet, but the width of it was identical.
Yeah, did the stairs come down the same location, like on the back, or were they on the side?
It was a little to the left of, in that picture, but the same
Still towards the
location.
brick?
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's try to simplify this again. If whoever did this the right way, they would have come in and they're looking to replace an existing deck in the exact same fashion or smaller. Would have been a small
It
project.
would not have been a small project because it's within 25 feet of a wetland. So
Oh.
it wouldn't have been a small project, it would have been an RDA.
RDA. But we would
But
have let it
still,
happen.
It's,
We
I
would have
think,
likely
let me
let
let
it
you
happen.
finish, keep going, right.
We would have let it
We would
happen.
have likely approved it.
So,
from our house
short
to
of
the,
Lowe's just owing you some
end of-
grief, I mean, we're not going to make them move this deck.
I believe so, and our
Up to them.
property line, I think, ends at
Yeah, we're talking from the conservation
43.8.
perspective.
So it's like right in the back, but the back is, I don't want to.
No, we wouldn't. It's up to the building inspector to make his call.
You yourself should go after Lowe's, or worst case scenario, the builder, whoever did this deck, should lose his license.
No, let's, no, I mean,
There's a
who knows? Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. In the end, Lou, they may not have suffered any damage as a result of the hijinks that went on, other than
Yeah,
the
because
time of their life they're
the
spending
building
right here.
Department can make him take it off.
They could, but
That would-
I don't
Say
know
that
if
again?
this commission's
The
gonna do
building
that.
department inspector can make you take that deck off because it doesn't have a permit.
I'm not going to scam with that. That decision would be made by the building
Yeah,
department.
and
We have a
we-
decision here to face.
And we could have did it,
From an enforcement perspective, we discovered it. They've showed good faith. They've come in.
We
They
called
made
the
a
day
compelling
after we got the
argument that
letter.
I think it's a cogent and an acceptable argument. And from what I've heard, I wouldn't make them change a thing.
no, I agree,
So from conservation, I think they're done.
but
Well, I think the only thing is what,
You don't want a wall, do you?
no, I don't. I want to dam that brook. No,
Can I just pick
No,
up my house and move it?
no,
no, you don't have to move it.
but,
My whole house, I can move.
there would still be a filing in front of us if they had done it the right way.
Right. So
And
you
there-
want to memorialize it with a filing.
Filing and with the fees for post, well, let's even maybe waive the after-the-fact fee for them,
Right.
based upon these very unusual circumstances.
I follow what you're being, what are we doing about the builder?
I agree.
This is a licensed builder. What are we doing about the builder? I'm all in favor of helping out the family. No objection. What are we doing about the guy that went in there and just slapped up the?
That's not our purview,
Oh, I beg to differ.
Because he created a violation.
He violated
Put your
the law
uniform on
here.
and go arrest him.
Pardon me?
Put your uniform on and arrest him.
I don't need the uniform to do it.
Then go arrest him.
We typically, this type of code violation
Pull 'em over with the-
is enforced by the building inspector's office normally.
They're aware of it, they're CC'd on our letter,
So I
so.
would request that you, as our administrator, memorialize a follow-up communication to the building department.
Yep.
Advising them of the action that we took and asking that they please enforce the builder.
Yep.
And do we have a copy of the documentation she has from Lowe's and?
We should get that in
Well,
our file.
let's make it that as
Absolutely.
part of our
Just
record.
The contract, copy of the contract.
Yep.
If you have any photographs.
So we can have it in the
of
folder.
That same perspective of what you used to have.
Yeah, that would be really.
That would really help us.
Yeah.
And anything at all,
Help
you
you.
can, anything at all, it'll be, we're gonna help you
We've obviously
out.
taken you at your word on it, but if you, a photograph would be,
Just so you know, we're on
Gold.
your side. And like I said, I would the squeaky wheel gets the most grease, I will be all over Lowe's.
Well,
Good,
You bet, I will wait.
good. Good for you. And
can
I'd be really interested to see how you
Moving forward with the
find out.
permit. You've already paid for that permit to them.
Yeah, yes.
So they
So-
somehow got to participate. You have to work that with them directly. We can't force Lowe's hands.
so I think
Okay.
when you go to them and you tell them,
Go to Lowe's. okay.
they'll start going after the builder too, but I'm more concerned about the code violation here.
Right.
So what happens administratively with Lowe's and their builder, I doubt.
What do I tell them, I guess? Like, obviously, I
Well,
told them
you go to
what
them and tell them the
happened,
story
and
from the
then I
beginning.
have to come here
You show them your
today.
You show
contract.
them your enforcement letter.
Show them the
say-
letter with the picture.
And you explain to them that
Show them the contract.
we got a violation issued
Yeah,
to us.
I called them.
And that's
told
gonna
them.
result in us having to get a permit that I've already paid you guys for, and you spell it all right out. And your ultimate thing you're gonna say to them is, and I want you to get all the permits that you said you were gonna get.
Or you get competent counsel to do it for you.
And get what?
A good lawyer, competent counsel.
They don't want to have to.
They don't wanna
hire
have
a lawyer.
that. You go to the counter at Lowe's and the person who signed that contract on their behalf, they're gonna bend over backwards for
Yeah,
you.
you show them the letter that you received from the town agency indicating this violated the building bylaws, and then you show them the contract that says that you guys say you're going to take care of this stuff, and it wasn't taken care of, and you let them know the stuff you've been through. Hopefully, you'll get a good response.
Whoever that copy is, won't be working for Lowe's.
Yeah, I would hope, right.
In terms of like the building department, like what do we do?
You wanna talk to him before you go to Lowe's, because there may be more in that conversation from his
Yeah.
perspective.
So after today,
Go see the building.
what do we do?
Have you received anything from the building department?
Let's talk to the building inspector, tell him what happened. He can
Show him that
provide, he
contract.
can probably provide some sort of.
Can I call him, do you think? or-
Sure.
Okay.
And he can probably provide some sort of communication that you can take to Lowe's. I mean, you have our letter, you can take, he'll substantiate the fact that the contractor submitted a building permit application, it was never signed off, he never paid for it, and then he just built it, so. So he'll be able to
It's like
verify
crazy,
that
right?
for
And
you.
like,
And then that's what you take to Lowe's and,
it's so frustrating.
Kind of-
I know.
Not that I'm gonna get involved, but I'm curious, Lowell's New Hampshire or Lowell's Methuen? A Massachusetts store or?
New Hampshire.
So,
Because it's still like
Okay.
10 minutes away.
it's gonna- that
Closer
might
than
make
the
a difference.
Danvers one,
Right,
so.
so you have to file
so-
with us an RDA.
an RDA, and I'll help you fill out the application
So
for
we have to
that.
do that too,
Yeah.
and talk to
Yeah,
the
while you're there,
okay.
you can see the building inspector.
And
Yeah.
say that again?
While you're there, you can see the building inspector, because
Okay.
it's the same
Or call, or
counter.
We have to come in and do all of this?
I suspect that our staff will help you when you.
I'll help you.
Yeah, I suspect they'll
Let's
help
just
you.
circle back in the next couple days.
Okay.
But your first step is probably just talk to the building inspector. And then
Okay.
we can talk about the application for the compound.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
What action is needed on the enforcement order? Just dismiss it? or-
File an RDA,
RDA?
well, what was the language in the enforcement order?
Hold on just one second, we got to get it right on our end.
There was still
Okay.
a permit needed from us?
All right, so I
Though
think
we're not
they're
gonna make it, there's still
satisfied.
a permit needed.
The enforcement order required them to appear in front of us to discuss this matter, and it sounds like they've done that.
Yep.
So the enforcement order has been completed, and now the next requirement is that they go forward and get a permit. Okay, so with regard to the enforcement order, then we just let it ride?
Keep it there again?
Unless you want
Right,
to vote
too.
to issue an enforcement letter, just stating.
Yeah, modify the-
We're going to
Yeah,
require an
modify it
RDA.
for an RDA.
It's a great idea.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. We're just talking.
Short for request for.
You're gonna get
determination
that
of
education when you visit.
Okay.
I'll fill you
How
in.
many kids do you have?
We'll
You
have a
to give
good
us one.
time.
Yeah, what it is actually more confusing than the.
No, just when you go in, they'll show you.
Yeah.
They'll show you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. All right, next one, I have to recuse myself, so Mr. Manzi will be the chair. It's 242-1692, 1210 Osgood Street.
Okay.
East.
Yeah, absolutely.
4 inches of rain coming before Saturday morning. Let's start there.
We're ready.
Okay, so, Counselor, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I am Bill Such from Goulston and Stores here on behalf of NRP. With me tonight is Brendan Gilmore from NRP, Paul Lockwood, and Vern Kokosa, engineers that all of you are now very familiar with. And we're really here tonight for 2 reasons. It's been a little while since we've been in. There were some continuances along the way. And we were asked to provide an update. Earlier today, Brenda did email to Ms. Maxner a copy of just sort of a general construction update of what's been happening at the site. I have extra copies. I'm happy to distribute those if you haven't printed that out. Okay. Yep. Bunch of exhibits on the back of that, photographs and the like that I'm happy to hand out as well. And I can just give a very brief summary of this. Things have been going well at the project site. Pavement has now been installed across approximately 65% of the project areas. All the rain stores have been completed. Most of the currently paved areas are introducing water into the rain store system, and the underground drainage system is approximately 90% complete at this point. The previously approved interceptor trench, which is at the base of the retaining wall out there, it actually runs about 700 feet along the base of that retaining wall, is complete. It has been installed, backfilled. The sump wells associated with the trench drain are now effectively capturing water associated from the site. Mr. Lockwood can talk about that, but it seems to be running great. It's very effective. There's one little piece of that left to be done. There's some seeding that has to be done. The topsoil has been placed, but it hasn't been seeded yet. I understand that Paul McManus is going to be in contact with Ms. Maxner just to get the seeding mix right. He has. Great, super. So that'll happen. The planned wetlands plantings and downgrading areas have been completed by Paul McManus and Ecotech, and Paul has verified that. The planned invasive species removal activities have been completed. And the wetland, and this is really the best news, the wetland monitoring work being completed regularly by Mr. McManus and also by the environmental monitor continues to report good results and healthy growth in downgradient areas from the site. So I think we're here tonight really in terms of an update to present good news. Things are going well out there.
So I read briefly, I just got this tonight, so I didn't get a chance to tear through it.
Understood.
But recently, previously, there was some testing, water testing done that showed some spikes in pH levels, which I don't know if they're still up or if they're down, but the spikes were related to rain events and storm events. So I can't help but wonder, we have a storm event supposedly approaching us over the weekend, and I'm just wondering out loud what we're going to see at the end of that. But I'd like Michael to comment, if you would, on what your view is of what's going on so far with regard to the testing and the monitoring and the infiltrated trench performance.
Sure. So obviously, Paul and excuse me, the team submitted a plan with a request to approval to look at decommissioning the well point system with using strictly the interceptor trench down the line.
Mike, I was sort of just to weigh in for a second.
Sure.
We were sort of viewing this as a two-step process tonight, and I don't mean to presuppose how this is going to go. Our first thought was we were going to give a bit of an update generally on the project, and then secondly, have a conversation about the plan that we did submit and the one you're referencing, which was a plan to decommission the well point system that's on top of the retaining wall, because the trench below the retaining wall is really currently dealing with, well over 95% of the water leaving the site and is capable of dealing with a lot more. And these gentlemen here tonight can speak to that, but that's the pending request that we have.
So that would amount to an amendment, I believe. Is that, do I have that right?
Yeah.
You want to amend the enforcement order?
Yes. It was a modification to the monitoring plan that was approved and previously. and what it would, well, we can get into the details on that later. Okay, all right. But, well, I don't know, Paul, maybe the thing to do is talk a little bit about what's changed on the system. Okay.
Mike didn't
Okay.
answer the question on the pH.
Okay.
That was that's almost a mutually exclusive conversation from the other pump and treat systems. Because there was concern that we thought we saw calcite, we thought we had elevated pH levels measured back early summer, midsummer.
Correct. I
And-
can speak to that for you guys.
Yeah, because that was the
Yes.
question you asked, Al, right?
Sorry, I misunderstood
Yeah,
the
there's,
question.
where's the pH at, and curious, is it better, is it worse, and what do we expect moving forward?
Specifically, one of the things that I believe I read, and if I have this wrong, please correct me, the spikes that were reported related directly to storm events. So the increase in water,
Combination of storm events.
accounted for the spikes.
It was storm events, but also the earthwork that was going on at
Yeah.
the site at the time where, certain areas were opened up, for instance, for
Yeah.
doing like utility work or installation of the infiltration systems. And also, the sequence of the work too. So just because it's not just the rain, I guess my point is it's not just the rainfall event alone. It needs to be a combination of factors like certain parts of the site being opened up, maybe some of the recycled concrete being exposed to the elements or not. Those things all factor into it.
And just to be clear, that so-called spikes or blips that we saw were all on the influence side, of course. On the effluent side, the water being discharged to the wetland, the results have always been excellent. I mean, the system is doing what it's supposed to do.
So we're continuing up to this point today to analyze what's coming out of the well points. And what are we seeing in readings of pH coming forward?
Yeah, it's after the elevated levels that we had, and I guess it was early July and August, they've returned, down to what they were prior to the so-called spike. We're running in the range of 9.5 to 10.5 for the most part.
So we're
pH.
still roughly 3 points over where we want to be in terms of.
Yeah, we
pH.
want to try to get to 8.5 or below.
7.5, I thought was the number. Did I have that wrong?
I think 8.5 was
Okay.
the number we had in the plan. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we're not there yet. We're trending.
Yes, yes, we are.
But we
We're
haven't.
still sampling, we're still analyzing and measuring.
Yes, we are.
Reporting it.
Yes, we are. With the, we're up until, with the exception of a gap for moving the, when we're moving the system around, we've been taking, hourly pH readings. But there is a gap here for a few days at the end of September as the trench was being installed, the piping's being rerouted, and the treatment equipment was being moved per the plan.
Just on the influence.
Yeah.
Not on the. There's not any one factor that's affecting elevated pH levels. There's
Yeah.
several, and much of which is what's construction activity going on, what's the current condition of the site, and what is the climatic condition with rain, and maybe even other factors beyond that. So, but what I've heard is we're 65% paved. The disturbance areas are further away. What's online, what's paved is got a stormwater system that's collecting water and infiltrating into the ground. So those vulnerabilities of what could have been the bigger culprit, little by little and incrementally, should be lessening. And we should be seeing that sort of result.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's right. And I think we are. And I'm anxious to see more data as so as we get farther down the road with the rest of the paving and with the the interceptor trench in place and the new system in place. And I'm sorry.
Just to circle back to your question, we did see those spikes. Paul and Vern addressed them, and we have seen. I just want to make that sure it trended back down to conditions prior to the spike, so they are back on the trend where they were about a month before that spike happened.
We've also had no storm events in that
I was
period.
Mike, it's safe to say this is the first
This is going to be a nice pilot.
test.
So this will be a good test, which I think that's helpful for all of us to get a grasp of what's going on. So we have the interceptor trench and the well points all operating currently, right? Everything is on.
Correct.
Everything's capturing, and you're capturing about 95%, we figure? Are we getting a?
Yes, with the interceptor trench, correct.
We're capturing on a volume basis, we're capturing 95%. And that was based on an 8-hour test that we did on, I think it was September 25th. But since that time, we've continued to monitor as we indicated in this letter. In the letter dated October 3rd, we've continued to monitor for volume, and we've actually seen upwards of, we're doing 24-hour monitoring with flow meters, and we're actually getting over 98% capture with the interceptor trench, which is significant because the interceptor trench is actually down gradient, hydraulically down gradient of the well point system. So we think that it would capture everything.
If you're to turn the well points off, you can make the case that, even the water that was being captured by the well points would be captured by the interceptor trench because it's down gradient.
So just to be clear, when we say 98%, 98% of the water we're collecting is being collected by the interceptor trench. 2% of the water is being collected by the well point system, which is above the wall. And it is our belief that if that system were to be turned off, that 2% would also be collected by the interceptor trench. It's just a more robust system that's down there now.
The question is, are we of the opinion, if that were to take place, if their proposal, if I understand it correctly, their proposal is to shut off the well points and let the trench do all the work? Is that do I understand it correctly? Does the trench have the capacity?
It does, based on the design we've received, and then also the I think it's 150 GPM sort of max rate they have for the system, so it should, yes.
Okay.
If I can ask, what's the benefit to you guys to having the well point system shut off? Is it a cost thing, or?
There are a couple of benefits. One of them's cost, but the other is it allows the grading to be finished up. In the back of where like building D, for instance, where the well point systems are, so they can get in there, get the topsoil in, get that seeded. There's less piping and on the ground, so there's less areas that need to be controlled, for trespassing. As in our prior plan, we were committed to fencing around the treatment systems after we moved them to the carports. This is just one, I guess, less equipment that's above ground. We are going to keep the wells, all right? So the underground infrastructure will remain, okay? So that it can be reactivated, if the need arises. So in our view, we still have the redundant backup system that that you wanted and that we wanted from the beginning, when we did the original plan before. It's just that we're at a point now where that system really is not effective. It's not really doing anything. But if we need it, if there's some sort of a mechanical breakdown or whatever reason that comes up, we do have the ability to reactivate it, put vacuum, tubing down those wells again and put a new vacuum pump back out there and do that within 48 hours. And that can happen right away. So in our view, I think we still have kind of that emergency redundant system that we wanted.
Just drill through you'd have pavement on top of it, right?
No. So
In the future, it'd be lawn area, right?
Yeah.
All this.
Correct.
No.
Where the well points
system is.
are.
They want to pave where the well points are.
No, it's
No,
landscaped, isn't it?
This is on the top of the wall, but to answer your question, there's basically three components of a well point system. There's the well points themselves, the extraction wells, the little points. They attach to what they call a common header or header pipe, which is what the vacuum pump, which is the third part of it, is attached to at the very end of it. So what we're proposing is to remove the header pipe, the big horizontal pipe that's there. It's sort of an obstruction to the final pieces of the development there. Cap and leave the well points. So normally when we decommission a well point system, we decommission the points in place. We fill them with a tremie grout, cut them down, and then they're covered with wherever the grading. We're not doing that. We're basically saying we're going to leave those points there. Just remove the header pipe, which you can move in a matter of hours. You could basically have that back in line and up and running. And then the well point pump, just take that temporarily offline. And the well points themselves will stay in place. That's what we're proposing to do.
And if I want to mention one other thing that.
That area that all around that is disturbed mud, just, construction material. And when you abandon that, you're going to look to put some sort of finish on it. And that is landscape, isn't it? And behind the buildings?
Supposed to be landscape, grass,
Yeah.
landscaped areas. It's bare ground now, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to add that there is some testing that's proposed in connection with this. It's not like we're just going to walk out there and do this tomorrow. And Vern, why don't you speak to, Paul McManus is going to be involved in this. We're going to be monitoring this as the system is decommissioned. Vern, why don't you speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, so the proposed testing, if you will, that would lead to the modification of the plan is to right now we have 1 day of relative flow measurement readings that's in this letter that you've received, but our plan is to collect 5 additional days of relative flow measurements between, how much water is being collected by the interceptor trench and how much water is being collected by the well points and what are those relative flow rates, and do that for 5 more days and with both systems running, Then we would shut down the well point system and just run the interceptor trench only for a week. And we would collect daily flow measurements in the interceptor trench, and then during that week, Paul McManus from Ecotech would do 3 inspections of the wetlands, beginning, middle, and the end of the week, and he would be looking for changes to the wetland areas or impacts to the wetland areas that may differ from with both systems operating, and so he would be looking for, new groundwater seepage areas, if there's new calcite formation, in the wetlands, stressed vegetation, those types of things, or any evidence of impacted water, entering the wetlands.
Something that might help frame it. When the original plan was submitted, the interceptor trench was the supplemental system. Essentially what we found is the supplemental system is doing better than the primary system. Well, that's what they're finding. So we're flip-flopping which one's going to be your supplemental backup, if that helps.
Have you been able to isolate and measure the pH levels coming out of the well point system?
I don't know. I don't know as we can. I don't know as we've taken those measurements, right?
It's virtually indistinguishable between what's coming out of both systems.
How do you make that determination?
They have different influent lines into where the water treatment system is. So the tank, there was a picture, the last picture that was in the NRP letter that was dated October 9th. That system, that tank that you see there at the end, that's the beginning of the water treatment system. Sorry, not the last picture, it's one of the last pictures. No, it was, it's this one. Sorry, it doesn't have a page number on it, but it looks like this. So that's the edge of the treatment system, which has a few tanks there and some chemical metering pumps and things like that. That's the system, but there's the line for the well point system and the line for the interceptor trench system both go into a common point. And we have, although we haven't measured it as judiciously as the other measurements which we did on an hourly basis, but we do from time to time just to see, and we haven't seen a significant difference between the two lines.
So just in that regard, so you have been able to isolate the two of them and get readings, and you don't see a difference between the two of them
We
as far
have
as
now,
pH levels?
when the system just was moved to facilitate the construction, the water treatment system was moved, and when we did that, some of the lines changed, and we were able to do that. But before, it basically fed into one. Well, for the longest time, in the beginning, it was just a well point system, and then we added the other components to it.
Do you have any concern that might be getting different pH levels higher out of well point than you would out of the infiltration trench, but you don't get to really observe that because they are being put together before the readings?
Yes, sir. Though the readings as an average from a given set of well points, that's industry standard, that's, looking at the data and what's coming through, and especially with the concentrations, the pH concentrations we're seeing, I'm okay with the data that's being provided as opposed to an individual well point, especially with the material. I wouldn't expect there to be much change in the RCA from point to point, so looking at it as an aggregate for a certain section, I think is appropriate.
I'll ask the question, and anybody that wants to can answer it. Paragraph 3, modification of the well point system, calls for, the owner agrees to reactivate the well point collection system by reinstalling the vacuum pipes at well points within 48 hours of becoming aware of an environmental impact, emergency, or other system failure. So if we experience any of those three, a system failure or an impact, why do we have to wait 48 hours?
Well, I mean, it does take a little bit of time to reinstall to first, recognize it, and then, there are 40 well points, so you have to install piping down 40 wells and then connect them all to a header pipe and get all that piping and equipment to the site and then hook it up.
So it's the man-hours of reinstalling the well points?
It is,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, the well points are there. and
The well points are there, it's really,
The header, you're just gonna decouple it from the well points. The header theoretically can come
Yeah.
off and be stored on site.
Right.
It can. The vacuum pump system and the controls, that'll all still be there, or are you gonna demob that? Because there's where your time is. Because if it stays on site, I kind of subscribe to Al, it's a matter of just getting somebody down there fast, reestablish the header, and take the caps off, put the header back on, hook your vacuum system up, and get it running. And, I'm not professing to say that you guys can respond faster than 48 hours, but we're looking at the potential for impacts if we wait that long.
I will say though that we believe that most of the time, if there's some sort of problem with the trench system, the fastest fix is going to be to fix that problem as opposed to re-implementing the well
Reestablishing
point.
the well
Yeah.
points.
And we have built a ton of redundancy into that system. When it's finished, it'll be on grid power. There'll be a backup generator for the pumps. And in fact, Mr. Lockwood has installed 2 pumps in each well sump. In the event that one fails, there's already a second pump in place to pick up the slack if the first pump fails.
this is for the interceptor trench.
Yeah, for the trench.
Understood.
So we've really tried to build lots of redundancy into that trench design. And the belief is that if a pump were to fail or something, that's the fix we would do sort of immediately, which is one of the reasons we had that 48-hour timeline in there. Again, if there's a problem, we have to report, and if it's a noticeable problem to the wetland, we have to report it within 2 hours per the monitoring plan. So you'll know about it as well, and we fully expect we'll be doing everything we can. But our belief is that we're talking about an extremely unlikely event here because it's a robust system and it's working really well.
I understand that approach completely. And it's based on the premise that we believe the interceptor trench is doing the lion's share, if not done there all of the work, 98%.
Correct.
We know that based on some prior readings and that you've taken and measured, but we really haven't put it through I'm gonna say like one final closeout protocol in order for us to be 100% confident. So are you physically measuring the flow, or do you have devices that you're data logging flow from the 2 different systems?
It's automatic. We have flow meters on the different.
So it's automatic, in your data logging, or someone?
It's a flow meter with what's called a totalizer on it. So it's
Totalizer.
basically like a speedometer and an odometer.
Okay.
So you have those, you can measure, you don't have to physically watch the flow all the time. Yeah.
But it's storing that internally in some device, some sort of control device. and-
It is a
and you're able
non-resettable.
to download that and then look at the curves.
Yes.
And see what you're doing. Okay. So what I'm suggesting is that you've got that for both, the vacuum and they're both still in place.
Yes.
So we've been doing this through the summer. Not sure that's giving us a good data set, but we're in a period now where the data set's more appropriate. You've got something that's closer to a finished construction project. We've got something that's now more typical climatic situation with rains and drying periods and more rain and, heavy rains. I think if we data log and reassess the data over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a clearer understanding, substantiating that this is in fact 98%. And if that's the case, you're able to substantiate and prove it under regular climatic conditions, then I think I'd be more inclined to say, I agree with you, and you probably could decommission this. But right now, I don't think we're there. We're darn close, and I'm confident, but I just don't think we're that close yet.
Well, the only thing I would mention is, in addition to what Bill said before, is that the, another contingency that was built into the system is that the flow rate, and, you know, I agree with you that the flow rate over the summer is quite low, right? That's been some of the pH fluctuations that I see are, I think, we're giving equal weight to measurements on an hourly basis, regardless of the flow, right? So we're, you know, in the previous spring, we were, at sometimes we had sustained peak flow for 24 hours of about 40 gallons a minute. Right now, we're at less than a gallon a minute, right? So you have to kind of weigh that in there. But the system, the length of the well point system is about 200 feet, maybe a little bit more, maybe 220 feet. The length of the interceptor trench, we were more conservative in our approach. We wanted to make sure we didn't have any gaps in the capture zone, and it's 700 feet long, over 700 feet long. So we designed the system to account for a flow rate of 150 gallons a minute. So more than, you know, 3 or 4 times, almost 4 times what the peak flow is measured sustained rate at the high time of the year, earlier in the year. So we think we have that capacity there. So
I'm not questioning capacity. I'm suggesting that now that we've got a site that's more built out and more pavement in place and a better capture of runoff into an infiltrated system, we get something that's mimicking end result construction. And I think that we have the ability, just by telling me the protocols you're using, we have the ability to watch those flows and under these new current conditions, and to measure if in fact we're still getting that 98%, 2%. Because if suddenly we get a big rain event and then come Monday, after a couple of days after the storm, suddenly they start balancing out some more, then I'm less inclined to believe that there isn't some greater reliance on that other system.
In addition to the one that we had talked about there, we had talked about 5 days with both systems operating at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, before we shut it down, shut down the well point and did the well point shutdown test, you know, which was the second part of the test.
I'm saying a couple of weeks.
Yep, yep.
You are too as a scientist, but.
Yep, yep. Okay.
I'm interested in your take on that.
Yes, I reviewed the plan for the test for the well point shutdown to evaluate if they, you know, if they could propose to take it offline, and it looks good, it looks robust. It's enough time, I think, especially as Joe mentioned, with the rain events we're likely to see this weekend and coming up through the fall, we're in our rainy season, so we'll learn a lot, and the duration should capture a lot of that. So it'll be interesting to see what the data comes back like. So if they're going to shut off the system, the temporary shutdown is part of their thing.
Yeah.
During one of the rain events, that would give a lot of good data.
So would you, I think the proposal calls for a test period. It calls for a shutdown test for up to 5 days. Are you in favor of the shutdown test now, at this time, authorizing the shutdown test and getting the results brought back to us in 2 weeks? Or what?
I think so.
What are
I can
we
make that
looking at here
recommendation.
reasonably? Because I think we have to.
I mean, especially with the conditions we're coming up, big rain event.
Yeah.
If we can learn stuff, if, you know, the proponent's amenable, then this would be a good time to test it. You're going to, again, learn a lot. If you're going to see things, I would suspect you're going to see them pretty quickly.
So you'd say to authorize, your opinion would be to authorize the shutdown test and at this time and see where it goes?
Well, I guess I would ask, what was your proposed timing? Or is it waiting on this piece?
It would be, well, it's really, it's 5 days of flow measurements before the shutdown, and then 1 week of shutdown of the well point system where we're measuring it, you know, checking for impacts.
I guess my question is, would you start tomorrow if you could?
Oh, I think we,
flow measurements, you could start.
Yeah, I think we have 3 days of the 5, the flow measurements, so we probably need till Friday, I believe. It might help me if I'm wrong here. But
We could shut it down tomorrow. I mean,
I guess the point I'm getting at
Yeah, I mean, if you'd
is-
rather capture the rain event,
we
then
could do it,
that way.
we could
yeah.
commit to shutting it off tomorrow.
I think you'll learn.
Tomorrow, you've got Thursday's rains, Friday's rains,
Yep.
and Saturday morning. So you've got 2.5 days of steady rain. You won't be the full 3-4 inches, but it may not be a bad idea. Run that through Monday.
Yeah.
Gather your data up, analyze it, get it to Amy so we can look at it for the next meeting. At that point, based on those results, then you do the take it offline test, right? You wouldn't do them in rapid succession, would you?
That was the proposal, yeah. We were gonna do the flow measurements and then shut off the well points and then see how the wetlands behave, yep.
So I would only do that after the first 5-day test with the wet weather, that those results are reviewed by Mike. And if he believes that is now appropriate to do the next 5 days the next test with the shutdown, then you wouldn't have to wait to come back to the next meeting for us to say that. I mean, would we, as a commission, give Mike that authority? A lot of responsibility, but you can either have that day responsibility here or do it in the field.
I think I'm gonna speak out and say, I think that's why we hired you.
Recommendation based on the data provided. Absolutely. That's why I'm here.
And my opinion is, yes, this is the right time to start the test, because we have the weather's not gonna get any better between now and April, so.
So you already have 2 days of monitoring, right? So you need a flow month, yep, yep. You want 3 more.
We started Monday, Monday, Tuesday, and today.
I believe Amy has a question.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. So we need, 3 more days of testing with both systems operating?
Well,
Is that what?
It would be
Two more days.
of flow measurements, so.
Flow measurements
through
with
Friday.
both systems operating?
Through Friday, yeah.
Through Friday. Then what? So then,
Shutdown test at that point?
Then we could,
Then what is, those results are compiled, and reviewed by them, and submitted to Mike for review, and there'll be discussion between them.
Okay.
Of what these results are.
Mean, okay.
Then there'll be a meeting of the minds, and they're gonna ask, we would like to take that offline and now do the second part of the test. Mike,
And let the
great.
trench do all the work and see how the trench
Do all the
does.
work. And at the end of that protocol, we probably will have results for our next meeting, where we could engage in a real conversation about decommissioning the system.
And you said that the current flows are 98.2, is that right?
Yeah, 98 point, to be exact, 98.3 and 1.7%.
So after 2 or 3 more days, if we see that those flows are changing significantly, you obviously wouldn't recommend it.
I'd expect them to change, and that's why I'm interested to see the system taxed, just because of the rain events with things, and over that time period, you're gonna see stormwater, rain stores, infiltration, you're getting kind of your, I hate to use the term worst case scenario, but the scenario you want to evaluate and see under that maxed out, in quote, maxed out condition, how does the system operate?
But that's still with both of them operating?
That's right, that's right.
Okay. And you expect you to see something different than 98 and 2? You're going to see something more like even balance?
But even if it did, I mean, the whole idea is that the interceptor trench is a capture zone that's right at the interface with several feet of contingency at the till-fill interface. And so even if there is more flow that's captured in a sheeting effect by the well point system during rain events, doesn't mean that it's not being captured by the down gradient.
I anticipate a condition that may be just a little more conservative, and that is that we can make the discussion to take it offline temporarily to do the next test. We do that.
Yeah.
But if we don't see another rain event, I'd like to see another rain event, not as significant as this, but another rain event that really quantifies that the septic trench is in fact capturing it all, doing its job, getting favorable measurements at that point. It may not be the very next meeting, but hopefully, these rain events now are gonna start coming in, it's September and October,
Yeah.
the fall when these things happen. We're gonna start seeing them pretty regularly, maybe not 4 days at a time, but you're gonna see them, 2 or 3 days at a time in the future. the next.
And one thing that I guess I could just, as a refresher, I guess, in the original monitoring plan, we actually contemplated and described the test there too, where you know, during both dry and wet weather conditions, after we get the site all paved, we had proposed tests where we shut down the interceptor trench, shut down the whole collection system and see what happens, okay? So those are tests that we're still planning to do. They're in the original monitoring plan, and that's something that we fully intend to do once the site is all paved, just as a reminder. So there's wet and dry testing coming up to check, you know, to check that out as well, once we get down, the pH levels get down.
Coming out of the trench, the water that when it goes in the trench, you pump it, you're still pumping up to a tank, right?
We're pumping up the treatment system, and while the operator, so it's only run, the system's only run during 8 hours a day, unless there's a capacity issue and they have to be there longer.
But I mean, so are we
Hourly.
pH testing hourly?
pH, turbidity on the influent and on the effluent.
TSS, stuff like that?
Again, that's a person sampling and taking the measurement and logging it, or do you have a data
Yes.
logger on that?
No, we have the turbidity and the pH is a discrete sample by a person, yes.
Excellent. All right. Amy? Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, so, rain stores are in, all of them, on site?
Yes.
Are they're not online?
They're not all actively collecting water.
Some of them are,
Yeah, the paved areas are collecting.
paved
water.
are collected.
And the ones that are paved are obviously close to this trouble, the area of concern. And so, you know, we are really mimicking the post-construction condition at this point, nearest where we're collecting our samples.
So, if I may, I'm just a little confused as to where we ended up in this discussion. So it sounds like we're going to submit.
We're talking about authorizing you to start the well point shutdown test. That's what I take the discussion as. If I have it wrong, straighten me out, but
I guess one.
I thought that's where we were going here.
I did too, but I wasn't sure.
I get you, all right.
That's where I was going.
If I may, the proposal that we had submitted is slightly different than what we were just talking about here in terms of sequencing and timing and reporting. Because I guess in the proposal, what we were hoping to do was to, you know, get authorization to do the 5 days of flow measurements with both operating, but then, you know, and not seek approval but just, you know, then shut down the system, you know, check the wetland for a week, you know, beginning, middle, and the end, and see if there's any impacts, and then do a report on both of those pieces to Mike and to Amy, and if they felt that everything looked, you know, performed as everybody expects it will, then okay, then they would administratively approve the idea of taking the well points, you know, offline, and but then keep the wells, you know, as a backup system if we need them. That's how the proposal is worded right now, and so we were hoping to have the meeting of the minds, if you will, and reviewing data. Basically, after we do the 1 day test, we do the 5 days of flow measurements, then the 1 week test, and then gather with Mike and Amy, and get their blessing to shut.
Pause right there.
Yep.
5-day flow test.
Yep.
You're currently in the 3rd day now, is that why you say that'll end on Friday? Because you said that earlier, right?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
Okay, so that'll end on Friday, so we believe that we're gonna get results that make sense. When would you take that next step and then, you know, just turn the well point system off to begin the week test? Monday?
Monday, you think, or Friday night? I don't know.
I'd like to start a test on a Friday night.
Yeah,
Holiday
all
weekend.
right, Monday morning. Monday morning. So I guess we'll have extra days of flow measurements, right? Through the
Right, so
weekend?
then we would expect the following Monday to
Yeah.
complete that test.
That's
the second
correct.
piece of it.
That's correct.
At which point, we're
that's the-
right up against our next meeting.
Okay.
But at that point, you guys would have already talked and just, you know, understand what this recommendation is, and either going to be
That's true.
agreement or not, But you'll resolve that before Wednesday night, and we'll know.
So, I think, I think authorizing 1 and 2 is a good idea, with the caveat that, let's share data as things are progressing, as you guys are generating.
Yes.
Obviously, draft data is draft data, but as best you can, so we can see how things are progressing with flow rate and such. But and again, this type of weekend that we're seeing, I would expect, and we're going to defer to you, know the site better than I do.
Yeah.
Groundwater levels will maintain some robustness for a few days after this
Yes,
event.
they will. Yep.
So we might get a little bit more bang for a buck if we
That's
then
exactly
also
what
see.
we
Yeah.
got the storm scepter,
Correct.
but we have the ground infiltration systems. This is exactly the data we want to collect.
Right, so that would be
We want to
items.
see how that dissipates out over time.
Right.
As
So
the
we-
infiltration moves through the fill land that we're concerned about.
I agree.
So is anybody confused as to the sequencing of how this is going to take place before we put it to a vote? Anybody have any?
Well, I just want to be clear, so we're not, Mike's not going to give the okay for them to shut it down, the well points, it's just going to happen automatically.
Yes.
You're good.
I'm good with that.
We'll do the flow test, which will end this coming Monday.
Yeah,
You guys are working Columbus Day weekend, so that's not a problem, it's same Monday.
I am,
Yeah,
yeah.
all right, so that's gonna happen Monday. The following Monday represents that second piece of the test. You don't need Mike's input, you just automatically can do that come Monday.
Yeah.
Start that.
Well, I mean, they're gonna make the switch over this coming Monday.
Correct. This coming Monday.
Shut down the well points.
And all that is
I
just
think
turn
Friday
the
they're gonna
switch off. All
shut
you
down the
do is
well
just-
points.
just
Monday
turn
they're
the
going
pumps off,
to.
right? That's all that is, just gonna just turn the switch off.
infrastructure, just shutting things
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that's gonna, you're gonna continue to measure for that next week, and at that point, will be just a couple days before our next meeting. They should be in agreement with whatever it is, and they're gonna report to us then, at which point we have a real conversation about what the decommissioning looks like.
So at the next meeting, that header will still be in place?
Yes.
Okay.
And if something goes awry, that switch gets turned back on. It's,
It sounds like you're anticipating that we would come back before there was any permanent, not permanent, but any removal of equipment from the well point system at the site. We would come back in front of you again. We were planning on asking for an administrative approval on that. And obviously, if,
we want to get a result, so I
Yep.
think we need Mike back. If there's no agreement between you folks, you might want to do that.
yeah, I understood. So it sounds like maybe we just, Mike, we just stay in contact over the week, and then we can make a decision about whether we need to be at that meeting or not, depending on the results in our conversations. Okay, that's fair enough.
Anybody have any other questions or comments before we put this to a vote, to authorize the vote? The motion would be to authorize as drafted. Okay, are we looking for a motion?
Oh, so moved, sorry. Like you're making the motion.
No, hold on.
Yep, so it's some modification, is that?
This
Is that what we're actually voting on?
We're voting on a proposed testing and well point system modification as outlined on pages 2 and 3 of the October 3rd, 2019 letter.
Thank you. So move?
So
Second, yep.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. You have it.
Everybody goes.
Before everybody goes. Yes, ma'am.
We need to talk about funds for continued retainage of our GEI guy.
Okay, so who's prepared to speak to that? The bylaw requires that the applicant escrow money for
How
the
do we
payment.
structure, we establish an initial escrow?
We have one,
We've
yeah.
drawn that down.
Set.
We are about to.
So how much is needed for the escrow?
What are the details? What was the original amount? Where are we at?
It was,
So we're at 17,000 currently.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we gave you, the first one was for 10,000, right?
First one was for 7, second one's for 10.
yeah.
Okay,
but-
that was right.
Yeah.
Compared to the scope that you've already provided moving forward to get us through, do we think we need Mike on a regular basis beyond a couple of weeks, or?
Well, I'm
Trying to come up with a number. What do we think we need to finish this off?
we
This
don't.
is just a retainer, right? I mean, any amount not used goes back to the applicant?
Oh, yes.
All right.
I'd recommend escrowing another $10,000.
I would second that.
Okay, so.
I would move that, I guess, because you can't.
I just want to make sure everybody, I want to see all the heads nodding in the right direction. Okay, so it's okay, escrow $10,000? Okay, thank you.
So
That's,
moved.
that's dealt with. All right, all those in favor?
Okay.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Amy, next, anything else? Any other business before we dismiss?
Sure. Yep.
I'm sorry?
He's just asking about transfer funds, that's all.
Oh, all right. You good, Mike?
I'm good. There was a couple of minor comments on the plan that we can hash out as things are moving forward with the test regarding notification for emergency situations.
All right.
I'm not sure if we really want to get into what those might be. I'd like for the proponent and you guys to come to agreement as to what emergency situations are. That being said, I don't think that needs to be hashed out tonight.
Do we need to define what an emergency situation is?
Do you guys have recommendations?
If we need a definition, I guess we can do it. Do we really need to define an emergency situation? I think, in my mind, an emergency situation is one where the untreated water is overwhelming the system.
Yeah, and I think that's right. I think that's right, and that was probably it would be the only time where you would either reactivate the well points or make the repairs to the sumps and the interceptor trench as Bill described.
Yeah.
It's one of those two, yep.
And there may be obvious things like catastrophic failure of the system, a line blows, things of that nature, things that you should be notified about pretty quickly.
I think it goes without saying, we want to be notified about any abnormality.
Yes, and actually I guess my answer would be is that the notification requirements would be the same as were in the original plan, where, if there's a failure of a treatment system component, we're supposed to notify the conservation agent within 2 hours. And if there's a failure of a system that results in environmental impact, it's 2 hours, so.
I agree with all of that. I think more from my perspective, I want to make sure everyone was on the same page with what an emergency situation is, so,
They have the ability
yeah.
to notify you as well?
Yes.
Should emergency situation be based on a pH level as well? If it reaches a certain level, should we receive notification?
If the effluent pH were to, and that would be a system failure, were to exceed, and I can't come up, I'd have to think about what that number would be, but I think we'd be in agreement. If the endpoint
But I
discharge
think
and
it's fair to
treatment's
say,
not working.
we already determined that the pH level is not where they want it. They already admit that it's not where they want it. So-
No,
Yeah. So that's-
right, and at the discharge point, at the effluent discharge.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
If we have a failure where the untreated water is being discharged into the resource area, that's an emergency.
Correct.
Okay.
That would.
We don't need to know.
I'm not going to speak for you guys, would you
No,
agree
that's
with me?
true.
It's
I would- yeah, I would-
untreated, if it's the untreated water, we're assuming the pH is high.
Right.
So
Right.
we can go with that assumption because we haven't met the level yet.
That's
So,
correct.
so any untreated water that's getting in there, that's an emergency.
Yeah, I would agree with that, yep.
We're all on the same page.
Yep.
No, I appreciate that, I do. I just want to make sure everybody at the table
Satisfied.
is comfortable with,
Yep.
okay?
If you guys are good with it?
Amy?
I think that's it.
All right. Sounds like we've covered this one then. We've issued all the motions, so if there's no other questions, I would say you're all set, gentlemen.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Of course.
Where is Mr. Napoli?
He fell asleep.
Mr. Tennant? How are you tonight, sir?
Very well.
Attaboy. I'm looking for the, there it is. Sorry, guys. So we're down to, Lou, we're down to general new old business.
New old?
New old, new/old. We've completed all the enforcement orders. We're down to general business.
The first one is the calendar, I believe.
Thank you. All right.
And you can have the gavel back.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate you, Mike.
All right. The first
So
one-
I got, on the other side, I have just sort of the calendar kind of highlighted the dates, just for visual.
What are we talking about here?
Oh, just the 2020 meeting schedule.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Is that something that?
I don't know, I just wanted to let you know what I was thinking and how I,
I'm in favor of.
just on is Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we've done that.
done.
All right, the approval of the calendar for 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is a discussion on Sutton Pond condominium.
So Sutton Pond Condos submitted a letter indicating that they're,
One second.
what, go ahead.
We have the decision written for them?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just
Do you
double
wanna-
check.
Do you want?
Why don't we have them?
Do you want to take,
You wanna do that?
the decision
Yeah,
out of
'cause
order?
this-
Let's do.
Let's do that, because this is gonna take a while.
Is
Okay.
that you?
That's okay.
Sutton Pond discussion, you can't, all right.
No,
So, Mr. Chairman,
we're doing the decision so these people don't have to spend all
thank you,
night.
thank you. Yeah, no,
Has to recuse
I
himself
agree,
from Sutton
100%.
Do the decision first?
Yes,
He lives there.
but he's in a butter.
When we get to Sutton Pond,
Oh, I'm
When
like,
we
he's
get
in
there.
Sutton Pond? I mean to,
No, we're doing the decision first.
out of order.
all right.
Quick moving conversations.
sorry.
all right?
Yeah, let's accelerate.
That's Sutton Street, I see Sutton Street, 505 Sutton Street.
We're closing in on 2,200 hours.
Yeah, we are.
That's the confusion.
So plan date will be August 29th, that was my typo.
Right.
I'll be attaching the long-term O and M for stormwater management and there's a key map that was provided in Cameron Moran's final response letter. It just shows sort of where the infiltration systems, where all the systems are. Just like a key, for whoever's gonna be doing it.
So I'd like to modify condition 41.
Yep.
That's prior to construction, giving us the construction sequence, including construction, compensation, retention, is that information. But then adding to that they submit to us the SWIP.
SWIP. Yep. Yeah.
I want to go back to 43.
Okay.
You asked me to flag the trees, one to be saved, but not, do not cut. We didn't ask the question, I hadn't really seen the order, so I didn't know where you were going with this, but if the site is getting considerable fill, do we expect that to go down to negligible fill at the perimeter, which is those trees you're looking to preserve?
Yeah, I don't,
So we're not gonna be burying root systems that are gonna just
No.
kill the trees anyway. Even though we're not cutting them down, if you put too much fill over them, we're off the,
I don't think so. Because they're in the no disturb zone.
there was negligible fill in the back.
Right. I mean, nothing's going on in the no disturb zone, but I just think it's good to be really clear what trees shouldn't be touched for the tree guy. It's this one.
I guess the only point I'm seeing in this is, we want to preserve these trees, they want to preserve these trees, we want to label them as such. We're not necessarily guaranteeing the survivability, depending on the fill condition. If we modify hydrology feeding the roots.
True, we just don't want them
We
cut
just-
down.
we can't
just don't want
guarantee,
them
we just don't want them cut them down.
Right, exactly.
Small buffer zone impact. Small buffer zone impact. Big project, small buffer zone.
Well, until it's not. What's the,
So we have foundations, we have a patio, we have some grading, we have infiltration trench. So where are your potentials for impact? So I think you've got enough earthwork happening with your foundations. So, but I think once you get the lion's share of that work done and stabilized, they could look for bond reduction. I'd say 10,000 to
as
start.
you pointed out during the hearing, there's going to be a substantial period of time when the site's going to be open, under construction, and difficult to control. That's the period of time where we traditionally, if something can go wrong, it will, on any site anywhere in town, when you're in that horrible open, like having an open wound. And that's the area that, if something does go wrong, that's when you need it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not,
So, let's look at the resources. So, it's a complete and utter total failure of all protective measures.
that's what I want to look at.
We muck out an isolated wetland. That's the impact.
Well, but, don't minimize mucking out an isolated wetland, or don't minimize a
So
silt.
taking
a
the
silt-
10,000 is too light, but I think 30,000 is too heavy. That's my opinion.
I would agree with Deb. I think that,
I was going to say 25, but then,
because the applicant is always free to come in and request a bond reduction
Right.
when the critical period is over. And it's not a punitive thing, it's a performance bond.
Mhm.
And what's our favorite phrase? Money equals compliance.
right,
So, yeah, I would agree with you that 20,000 is a fair number.
yeah.
I'm good with that.
Dan, are you comfortable with that?
Doug's so comfortable, he's gonna fall asleep, Doug.
He
Don't
said
make him-
five-
don't
Doug
make him
could
any
say-
more comfortable.
Doug could say 500.
Long as the money draws interest, and the interest is payable to the client when he receives the money.
It does, but
We don't-
nowadays, that's not even.
Well, I understand it's
That's not,
practically nothing, but it should.
Oh, escrow does. Escrow earns interest, and the interest-bearing account, it's all returned
so
with interest.
let's
That's
keep,
the way it works.
let's stay on
Fine.
point. This is a performance bond, and that's the reason for it, is for performance. The applicant can always draw it down. Can request draw it
I don't
down.
take exception to the 20 proposal. That's a motion.
I know, you're
Okay.
gonna
Yeah,
say
that's-
something.
so
All right, so can we agree on that number and move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have some.
Can
I just make one comment?
On a closed hearing?
Yeah.
You can't comment on a closed hearing.
I'm not commenting on the hearing, I'm commenting on the order of conditions.
This is not open to discussion about anybody but this commission.
We're just deliberating.
Oh,
We're
okay.
deliberating, you
Yep.
can't, you
Well,
really,
that's the question,
we
but
can,
we're
we can
deliberating.
take no testimony of any kind.
Yeah.
You can sit and watch and listen and observe, you cannot participate.
That hasn't been my experience elsewhere because it's a public meeting. I thought the commission
Until-
could acknowledge
Once we
someone.
close the
Once it's
public hearing.
closed, once we closed it, it's no longer a public
No
hearing.
more evidence, testimony, or documents.
The evidentiary portion is done. I mean, I
Oh, yeah, I know.
apologize for sounding stern, but that's
No,
really
no,
what
no,
it
I
is.
was just, you were talking about one thing that's not in the special condition, and that was my concern, was it's written different than what you were just talking about. So I don't want to present evidence on the project, I just wanted to make a comment on the special condition.
I mean, I just don't.
But it's,
I don't think we can take it. I appreciate and understand fully.
So-
My understanding
Yeah,
is,
so our order of conditions are pretty standard, except for those that are special, that are unique to the project, that we try to get pretty accurately, and we do a pretty darn good job. And really, it comes down to if you disagree with the order as it's voted and executed and issued, then you've got two options, either accept it or appeal it,
I'll request a modification.
or request a modification, that's third choice, you're right.
If you feel that we've done something wrong, you can always request a modification, and then it's on the record, and we're not breaking any rules, and the Attorney General doesn't come after us. Does that fit, maybe?
oh yeah, we'll work it out.
Thank you, thank you. That
We'll
was the
figure
answer.
out a way.
That was the answer I was hoping you'd say.
All right, so what,
Thank you.
okay, so number 46, we're gonna go with 20 grand?
Sounds like that.
Okay. All right. So now moving on.
So 54 is highlighted, shall be no
Yes.
increase in posted.
49 is highlighted.
Yeah, 49's
Did I miss
pretty
49?
straightforward, though.
I did miss 49. Yeah, 49 straightforward. 54 is the one that the abutter was so concerned about, so that's pretty important.
So wasn't the chairman?
Well, and I appreciate that, too.
No, that's a good.
That looks good,
Looks
yeah,
good.
it looks good. I wouldn't change it.
I would change it.
Let's go back to 49.
Joe wants to go back to 49.
Well, actually, I want Sean to go back to 49. So why are we letting, we have a poor homeowner, we're talking about stone wall, out in Farnham in summer, yet we've got this multi-million-dollar apartment complex, and we're not requiring a barrier other than a couple of signs.
If I had my way, they'd build a moat around the damn thing. That'll
just
catch,
right-
that'll
yeah.
catch the storm water.
Again, I mean, I would like to see it there. I don't know if I was here for that aspect of the project when it was in front of us, but certainly I, try to be consistent with everybody and have some kind of barrier in place.
But to accomplish that, we would be asking them to put, so if they do it at the 25, we would ask them to be doing that within an area that's currently intended to be not disturbed. So would we say that in that area of where the 25 is to put it at a wall at the silt fence and limit of work as defined? Meaning that horseshoe, the arc-shaped buffer around that one tree, would we just require the wall in that 30, 40-foot distance?
A farmer's wall or a mason's wall, Joe?
I'm okay with farmer's wall.
All right, farmer's
That's a
wall.
comment, it's not the Masons.
I get a little confused sometimes, so farmer's wall's good.
Confusion runs rampant at this table sometimes.
We're getting
We're
punchy.
getting punchy. It's 10 o'clock.
No, we're not gonna get punchy. We're not gonna be here all night.
So,
So, yeah, I'm good with
I
that.
think
I'll go
I think
AWOL
there should be
any
a
minute.
wall there.
I'm good with farmer's.
Yeah, I think we,
Joe wants a wall.
Along here
actually.
or here?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Pick it up from there to that tree,
So,
From that
so straight
line.
across?
to that tree. That way it's not within their limit of work that they're already giving us,
Okay,
and it still protects and separates the no disturb. It is consistent with what we do.
Okay.
In the middle of nowhere.
I'm gonna build one for you, Doug. I'm gonna make a model wall for you. Put it right on the table. in
Actually, it's a
front
nice
of
feature as you're sitting on the patio looking at that farmer's wall as the
you.
cows
Make
go
a
in.
little model wall for Doug.
They were gonna say, why, what is that down there for?
I think if we had like a logo, North Andover Conservation Commission, we just had a field with one of these field stone walls right there. That would be our, like,
See, you guys,
that could be our logo.
you guys have fertile lots here.
so what's a 2 by 2 by what? Roughly 2 by 2?
Just 2 by 2 plus or minus.
2 by 2
What we could do is,
You guys like that wall like that, which is really done by a stonemason.
No, you-
It look good.
Doug, I
it's a
want you to-
box.
I want you to come
It
visit.
fits
me.
within that box.
And I'm gonna show
It's
you
not
the walls we're
square,
talking about.
rectangle.
how long you been living in New England?
He doesn't really.
I know what a farmer's wall looks like. And what you guys want is this, is not a farmer's wall.
It's not what we
No,
want.
that's not true.
It must fit with, offline, we will
Okay.
talk about the history again.
All right.
of
The
that.
walls you find in the fields, that the farmers, they take the rocks out of the fields, and they put them along the edges, like that.
But on average, they're about 2 feet high and about 2 feet
But
across the bottom. That's all we're looking for.
there's no,
I have
there's
15
no
acres, right?
conformity to it.
Okay.
We all said how we do.
Yeah. Any more questions on the?
Any more modifications?
No.
Okay. I move that we issue NACC number 240 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, again.
I apologize for being direct. That's my job here.
That's his,
I think that you're wrong, but
And I'm not
But
saying.
I'm not gonna tell you that like in a
hearing.
If we did make a mistake, there's a way to, there was a way to correct it.
Yeah, we'll probably be back to discuss the
All right,
order
thank
with
you,
you.
thank you.
In all honesty.
Because this is all televised anyway.
Right, so we still appreciate everything you do
Thank you.
and the approval.
Thank you for being here. Remember, as always, there's no extra charge for the entertainment.
I think we missed some earlier when we were out in the hall.
Oh, you should have stayed inside. Mr. Tennant can tell you, we had a laugh a minute going on here. Mr. Chairman, are we,
All right.
what do we got?
We got
We got some-
discussion
okay.
on Sutton Pond.
Sutton Pond condos.
Can this be a brief discussion?
No.
I gotta
Yeah.
get up at 5 o'clock in the
I
morning.
know,
What do
so they're gonna repave the site, which is gonna come under a separate filing. But their immediate question is that the bridge, there's some wide wood boards that are in suspect shape, and they've covered them with some steel plates at the moment. So they're requesting your permission to perform minor repairs to the surface of the bridge only. These minor repairs will consist of the replacement of approximately 2 to 4 deck boards, which at this time appear to be structurally suspect. These damaged deck boards will be replaced with the structurally sound materials to match the thickness and the width and attached properly to the framing members below. So basically, I didn't know what type of review the commission would want to see for that work on the bridge boards.
I don't know what that is, outrage, and I don't know what the
Every time we deal with someone who asks a question about that section of the roadway of the bridge, nobody is giving it the justice that it deserves, and that is, this is a dam. That's a spillway. It falls into the Office of Dam Management.
I agree.
I was gonna, I was gonna actually make the same comment.
I agree with you, buddy.
And I mean it both ways.
Well, but I mean,
Office of Dam Management, there needs to be a structural evaluation, there needs to be a report done periodically, a risk assessment. I bet none of that exists. But before we tell them, from a conservation perspective, save the water, I want to know what the hell the dam is going to be doing. If the structure of the deck may result in the structure of the timbers, and the timbers are holding up wing walls, I want to know that in the context of how it affects the whole damn thing. Haha.
Thank you.
Very funny.
I'm saying,
Because it's a
that's
dam.
something that you don't do over there.
Exactly.
Go through the
And every
engineering.
time, whether it's Mr. Smith complaining about the sewer issue, everybody wants to go out there and alter that embankment. It's a dam. You can't be monkeying around. Look, everybody here knows it. They can't be monkeying around with it without knowing what they're doing. And it's way above the pay grade of this board of directors over there. They need to know what they're dealing with. And MRD is a paving contractor, right? Or project management group.
construction project.
Yeah.
manager. Clerk of
No
the-
such permission being granted from me unless they do something far more comprehensive.
I'm sorry, I missed that, I'm sorry.
I don't think they should be filing anything with us until they,
Okay.
they're prepared to show us how they intend to deal with the structural integrity of the dam.
Okay.
The whole structure.
Okay. I will convey that message.
Farmer's wall around it.
Mason,
Okay.
Dry set.
Signature pages. Okay, so we're gonna, 130 Ray Street, project engineer never ended up showing up, so, continue it? Okay, all right.
all those in favor say aye.
Okay,
Good catch.
all right. I'll get you some signature pages. Yes, Stevens Estate.
Who wants to volunteer?
Oh, thank you.
Who's not here? We never did the
Yeah.
Amazon.
Let's put John on it.
subcommittee. We never did the Amazon subcommittee.
Ah, that's the other
Yeah, we
thing.
did, it's you and Doug.
It is you, both of us, okay.
Yeah.
I think we should put
And
Maven on
Jack,
this.
Jack's willing to
And
serve
Jack-
too,
Jack
when he
on
gets
the-
back from
on
Italy.
Amazon?
Is Maven willing to serve on Stevens? I nominate Jack.
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't know about that.
I'm going to nominate him anyway. I nominate John David.
I'll second that.
You guys are so bad.
You have a motion and a second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's
It's maybe.
Yeah, he'll like.
He'll learn to come to the meetings from now
Please,
on.
please copy us on the good news to him.
So bad.
He just got it.
Okay,
It's on-
okay.
It's on TV, he got it. His
All
phone's
right.
ringing right now. His phone's ringing right now.
Okay.
You gotta learn to come to the meetings, Jay.
That's how you get to be out of that.
That's how you got to be- Listen,
Enforcement.
Motion to,
I have one, yeah. I got,
motion to adjourn and a second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
I have just a quick question for you guys. So we have two ANRADs that came in for the October 23rd meeting. One line is 13,000 linear feet of BVW. The other one's about 6,000 linear feet. So on lines that big, do you rely on me and Ben to
Yeah, they
review on your behalf?
Well, they pay for it.
They pay the going rate.
They pay the going rate for a line review, whatever it is.
I know that, but I'm saying you don't engage peer review for a line that big. That's
If you
what I
ask-
mean.
If you ask for peer review, if you make the request, we will grant it, we'll order it on your behalf. If you feel like you would be more comfortable with a third party working with you on it, absolutely. That's not a problem at all for us. That's the way we support our,
The difference is when we establish the fee structure, we recognize that the administrative burden, including field work, warranted a
Yeah,
per
I
foot
got you.
cost.
Okay.
That's how we
Yep.
arrive at the
Okay.
fee. That goes into filing fees, which you can't use to pay the consultant. So if the intention is to
Okay,
hire a consultant to do third-party review, then do we really, is it
I
fair
getcha.
to, is it
Okay,
fair to
thank you
collect
for-
the entire fee?
no, I needed that in context. Thank you. That makes sense. I didn't know. I'm coming from Beverly. They did things differently, that's all.
Push it off, right?
So, yeah. Yeah, I just want to get you signature pages.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that with Mike's version.
All right.
yeah, we're all set. You can go ahead and,
All right.
it was just really clear.